Chapter 91. You Want to Stop Me? In front of the fountain statue of the late King Rohel, Sylvia stared blankly at the blood apostle in the distance. She had heard a little about this hero who saved the slums. He was a pagan, but he could use the power of the Golden Rule. Although she had never seen the pillar of light in the slums with her own eyes, she knew that it was the sacred skill of the Golden Rule, the hymn of hope. In the entire Golden Church, there are only her, the Pope, and her daughter Ophinina. At first, Sylvia wondered if the goddess of the Golden Law and the god of the Blood Law had reached some kind of deal, letting his daughter Ophinina disguise herself as an apostle of blood to spread the fame of blood. But then I thought about it and felt that it was unlikely. First of all, with Ophinina's previous strength, she couldn't use the anthem of hope. And how could the Golden Law be connected with heresy? She fell into deep thought, and after a while, she suddenly raised her head. Wait, if we look at it from another angle, it was the apostle of blood who kidnapped Ophelia, and then used some kind of power to obtain the hymn of hope skill from Ophelia. Wouldn't this be more reasonable? Sylvia seemed to have seen through the truth. She looked at the blood apostle in the distance again, but the black fog had covered the area again and the blood apostle's figure had disappeared. In secret, Lear sighed. He killed the former King Rohel, but did not receive any notification that the high-level professional trial was completed. It turned out that the resurrected undead were not considered the mission target, but he was not particularly disappointed. After all, he had tried out a new power that could compete with extraordinary professionals. Looking at the blood apostle who had disappeared in the black fog, Sylvia was very angry. Ophinina had been missing for a long time, although the oracle of the goddess of the Golden Law told her that Ophinina was still alive and well and was not in danger of life. But as a mother, although there was no change on the surface, she was still very worried in her heart. She gritted her teeth, feeling the increasingly strong atmosphere of heretical laws around her. And finally Sylvia chose to solve the current trouble first. She looked at the former King Rohel who was nailed to her own statue. Under Rohel's body, the secret passage of the tomb had been opened. This time, the souls of other noble undeads around them were also wiped out. King Rosser looked at the entrance to the crypt with an unpleasant expression. Dark mist continued to emanate from the entrance of the tomb, and one could even see a dark mesh structure spreading toward the outside. Apparently corrupt believers are among them. Rosser remembered what his father had told him, that something extremely terrifying was sealed in the underground cemetery of the royal city, and that thing must not be allowed to come out at any cost. He didn't know what that thing was, he just hoped that the corrupt believers would not release it. Rosser, although I don't want to disturb the mausoleum of the Brayfield royal family, the corrupt believers must be eliminated. Sylvia looked at Rosser and said seriously, the royal mausoleums are generally forbidden to non-royal members, and entry by other people will be regarded as blasphemy against the royal family, but I can't care about so much now. Rosser was silent for a long time, and could only smile bitterly and nodded. It doesn't matter. As long as we can eliminate the corrupt believers, I believe the ancestors will forgive us. Sorry to bother you. Sylvia nodded. You go in first. I can't stand watching the late king's body hanging outside like this. Rosser glanced at the body of the late King Rohel still hanging on the sculpture. It was a bit ironic that he was hung on his own sculpture. Sylvia understood Rosser's feelings and didn't say much. The nobles around him also expressed their intention to sort out the remains of their ancestors. They are not fools. There are extraordinary undead spirits of previous kings standing outside, and there might be some terrible things inside. They don't want to work for the Golden Seed. If the Golden Church cannot solve the problems below, there is no point for them to follow. In the end, only Albert and the believers of the Golden Sea chose to follow Sylvia in. Avian, Greta, you guys stay up there too. Albert said to the two girls beside him. Why? I can help my father too. Avian retorted immediately. No. Albert didn't waste time talking to Avian and maintained a firm attitude. The blood apostle just now made him feel threatened. Even the carrion giant in the slums before had never given Albert such a feeling. The blood apostle killed the undead of the previous king. Perhaps he had some grudge against the corrupt believers. If the blood apostle also planned to enter the catacombs, Albert did not have absolute confidence that he could protect Avian and Greta. After getting ready, Sylvia walked down the stairs of the tomb with Albert and others. Avian and Greta watched and could only helplessly help the other nobles collect the bodies. After waiting for Sylvia and the others to go down for a few minutes, a figure slowly emerged from the black fog. The blood apostle appeared at the entrance of the tomb, and the nobles screamed when they saw the blood apostle. The scream attracted a lot of people's attention. King Rosser also looked over, and after seeing the blood apostle, his expression became somewhat solemn. Chapter 92. At the critical moment, you have to take action yourself. Sylvia and others walked towards the depths of the catacombs, and they were shocked by the magnificence of the catacombs along the way. How could someone's underground tomb be built like a palace? However, at this time, the palace-like underground tomb was surrounded by a disgusting black mesh structure. These black spiderweb-like threads are moving in rhythm as if they are alive, and are even more densely packed like blood vessels. An indescribable feeling of oppression hung over everyone's hearts, but they had no choice but to move on. Coming to the downward stairs, the pitch-black mesh structure not only did not decrease, but became increasingly dense. The ground was also covered with this black substance, and they could only move forward by picking through the gaps between the threads. Going down further and further, they finally arrived at the palace on the lowest level. The strong stench was unbearable. The palace was in a mess. The black mesh threads became denser. Above the palace, a huge ball of flesh was hanging high. Dense silk threads are wrapped around the ball of flesh and continue to extend outward. Sylvia's eyes flashed. She could feel that the rich power of heretical laws around her was gathered by the meatball in the sky. You are here. A low voice suddenly sounded. At the back of the palace, Derek, dressed in a black robe, slowly walked out and stared at the people in front of him. Former saint of the Golden Church, do you still remember me? Derek took off his hood, revealing his hideous face. There was a large area of burnt skin on the cheek, with almost no intact skin left. Sylvia was stunned for a moment, looking at the pagan in front of him, and a figure flashed through his mind. She had met Delric when she was in the Rhodes Empire. Before that, Delric was a subordinate of the corrupt chosen one of law and was just a high-level professional. Unexpectedly, he has now been promoted to the extraordinary level. My perfect face was ruined by the dirty golden rule, Dritch said, gritting his teeth. Sylvia's eyes twitched slightly when he heard this. She remembered that Delic's original appearance was extremely ugly, and it was not much better than his current burned appearance. How can you have the nerve to say such a thing? Oh, by the way, now Derek has no face either, so it's okay to say that. Sylvia curled her lips and said, stop talking nonsense. You escaped before, and now you have no chance. She raised the scepter in her hand and the battle was about to begin. Looking at the Golden Church believers and Albert rushing towards him, Delici smiled grimly. Don't you want to know where your daughter is? It must not be in your hands. Sylvia didn't want to say anything more to the pagan in front of her. If Affanina was here, Derek would have taken it out to anger her, but Delici didn't, and if she was caught by Delici, she didn't think Affanina would still be alive, but the oracle said that Affanina's life was not in danger. So Sylvia now feels more and more that it was the blood apostle who kidnapped Ophelia. Derek was stunned for a moment. He didn't understand why Sylvia was so sure that Ophelia was not in his hands. His expression was a little unhappy, but it didn't matter. He could personally turn the woman in front of him into a sacrifice for the coming corruption. Derek waved his hand, and the meatball in the air emitted black mist, and countless black threads wrapped around Sylvia like tentacles. Fire of purification. Sylvia shouted, and golden flames rose up around her. The black silk threads were burned to ashes as soon as they touched the flames. Albert also rushed forward at this time, and slashed at Derek with a giant sword like a door panel. Derek quickly dodged, and the giant sword fell to the ground, creating a horrible crack, and even the entire palace trembled. He was healed. The extraordinary war knight in front of him was truly a monster. His power was much stronger than that of the berserker who was known for his strength. No wonder he was able to chop the rotten giant in the slums in half with one sword. Delici quickly controlled the black silk thread in the air to wrap around Albert. At the same time, the meatball in the air also fell down and slowly merged with Delici. The dark threads continued to intertwine and entangle, and under the blessing of the corrupt laws, Derek gradually turned into a hideous monster. It was not a corrupt giant, but more like a maggot, with black threads entangled all over its body. It also has long and thin limbs and a bloody mouth open, just like a snake. This twisted creature felt his scalp tingling when looking at the golden church around him. Albert did not react. He had seen a lot and knew that a truly powerful war knight had to have a will of steel no matter what he faced. He raised the giant sword, the shadow of a mad lion appeared on his body, and he jumped high again. Lionheart slash. The thunder struck the monster, splitting it into two pieces. The golden cultists around all breathed a sigh of relief when they saw this scene, and even Sylvia showed a look of joy. Albert's power was beyond their imagination, but soon, the smiles on their faces froze. The monster that was cut into two pieces did not die. Instead, it quickly gathered together under the black silk thread and turned back to its original appearance. Ha, I admit that you are strong, but under the true power of the corrupt law, any brute force is useless. A crazy laugh came from the monster's body, and countless threads attacked the crowd. The monster also twisted its body and rushed over. Albert raised his greatsword and barely blocked the monster's attack after the fusion. The monster was not much weaker than him in strength. Sylvia released the sacred fire of the golden law and struggled to resist the monster's attack. Everyone was caught in a bitter fight not far away. Lear, who had already entered the tomb and was hiding on the side, saw this scene. Looking at the twisted, hideous and corrupt monster, he frowned. This kind of fused monster can usually be defeated by killing its controller. He saw the scene where Albert split the monster in half and then the monster was resurrected. He did not see Derek's body in the monster's split body. Albert apparently also felt that as long as he killed Derek, he could defeat the monster in front of him. He swung the heavy sword and began to chop the monster's body open, but no matter how he searched, he could not find any trace of the fused Derek. Lear watched silently. It seemed that Derek had learned his lesson this time. The rotten flesh giant in the slums was split open before, resulting in the rotten flesh dolls inside being killed. He learned his lesson. The long stalemate allowed Derek to gain the upper hand, and everyone was defeated. At this moment, in the shadows, Lear took out the starlight sealing stone he had obtained before. At the critical moment, you have to take action yourself. He raised the starlight sealing stone, activated it, and threw it at the monster in front of him. The gem emitting faint blue starlight instantly sealed off all the power of the law. Everyone also found that their power disappeared in an instant. Derek, who had transformed into a corrupt monster, also revealed his true form in shock, but this is not the end. Lear, who was standing outside the range of the starlight sealing stone, raised the bloody rose. The bright red light gathered, and the rapier turned into a spear, and shot towards Derek without any hesitation. The undead Rohel is not considered an advancement target for high-level professionals, and Lear doesn't believe that Derek, a corrupt believer of the extraordinary class, is not considered one either. The spear pierced into Derek's head with a sound of breaking through the air, piercing Derek and sending him flying backwards, stuck in the wall. Although the power of the blood law on the spear was sealed when it passed through the starlight sealing stone, Lear's actual throwing power was not sealed. End of this chapter. Chapter 93. The corrupted true spirit will eventually arrive. Drich, who was pierced directly by the blood-red rose, suffered a fatal blow, and only a little blood was left on his health bar. If he had not been knocked away by the bloody rose and left the range of the starlight sealing stone, recovering some of the power of the corrupted law, he would probably have been killed directly. This time, Lear moved. He quickly bypassed the restricted area of the starlight sealing stone and rushed towards Derek. The blood-red rose turned into a stream of light and returned to his hand. As the saying goes, kill him while he is sick. Before Derek could react, he stabbed the remaining half of his opponent's head with a sword, then pulled out the rapier and stabbed Derek in the heart. Derek, who had just recovered, was stabbed beyond recognition. His bulging eyeballs trembled, and he looked at Lear before he died. No one can stop the coming of corruption. He uttered his last words. You killed the plague warlock Drick, superb, and you gain 300,000 experience points. You have completed the high-level Blood Apostle career advancement task. Your level cap has been lifted. You have obtained the high-level Blood Apostle skills. 2 system prompts appeared in front of Lear, and the corrupt believers who had been stirring up trouble in the royal city were killed so easily. Albert and Sylvia both felt a little unreal as they looked at the fallen corrupt believers. Blood Apostle. Sylvia called out Lear's identity in a deep voice. Lear turned around, glanced at Sylvia, and in full view of everyone, he walked over and picked up the starlight sealing stone on the ground. The brilliance of the forbidden law power gradually dimmed, and everyone's law power returned to normal. You don't need to thank me, the bloody demon said lightly. He glanced at the surrounding environment. Besides, now is not the time to be happy. The atmosphere of corruption and lawlessness around us has not disappeared, and there are signs that it is constantly improving. The power of corruption has not disappeared yet. I'm afraid the spirit of corruption is about to descend. Lear put the starlight sealing stone back into the storage ring. If you have a way to disrupt the Advent ceremony, do it as soon as possible. If not, then leave here as soon as possible. He shook his head. The black threads in the palace began to stir. A faint green light flickered above the dome, gradually outlining a huge ritual formation. The meatball on the ground that had originally merged with Derek also emitted a dark mist at this moment, slowly rising, and then sinking into the dome. This series of scenes all indicate that a disaster is about to happen. I'll go first, Lear said softly, and then the incarnation of blood turned into a blood mist and disappeared. Albert and Sylvia were silent for a few seconds, looking at the increasingly bright ritual array above their heads, and finally had no choice but to evacuate. Everyone, evacuate the crypt immediately. Above the Lord's tomb, King Rosser, who had already arranged the remains of the previous king, was about to enter the underground tomb to check the situation, but before he walked to the entrance of the tomb, he felt the entire ground shaking. Densely packed dark green lights flickered on the ground, accompanied by mysterious magic patterns, covering the entire surface of the Lord's cemetery. What happened? What's going on with this magic circle? The nobles around all sensed the dangerous atmosphere. Just then, there were footsteps coming from the entrance of the tomb. Everyone, leave the Lord's cemetery immediately. Albert shouted. Rosser was stunned for a moment, then saw the people from the Golden Church rushing out. What happened? Were the corrupt believers not purged? The corrupt believers were killed by the blood apostles, but the magic circle of corruption had already been set up, and it can't be stopped now. Sylvia explained hurriedly. Leave here immediately. If the corrupt true spirit descends, everyone in the magic circle will be used as a sacrifice. She added, and everyone finally understood the seriousness of the matter. Can't destroy the magic circle that brings corruption? Rosser stared at Sylvia and said unwillingly. There's no time. Sylvia shook her head. In an alley somewhere in the aristocratic district, Lear stood with his own blood incarnation. Looking up, he could see the rolling black fog in the direction of the Lord's tomb. Like the end of the world, it seems that Derek was well prepared. Even if he died, the true spirit of the corrupt law would still come. Originally, Lear thought that he had killed Derek and ruined the other party's plan, so the corrupt spirit would not be able to descend. Then he would not be able to complete the fourth ring of blood revival mission. He had already accepted the failure of the mission and considered it as saving the people of the royal city. There was no penalty for the mission anyway, but now it seems that the mission is not over yet. Citizens working in other parts of the royal city also felt the vibration coming from the noble district. The sky was already covered by dark clouds, and the black fog reminded them of the miserable conditions in the slums. What is that? Another pagan? Some people even knelt down in panic and prayed for God's blessing. Some spoke of the golden law, others of the blood apostles. Die in the crowd, Li Huanhuan and the other two also saw the image of the aristocratic area. Instead of panicking, they showed excited expressions. Is something big going to happen again? Li Huanhuan's eyes were shining. Let's go and take a look. Da He made the decision immediately. Wait, aren't you afraid of getting caught again? Yao Yao was a little timid. She even had a psychological trauma since she was caught by corrupt believers last time. What are you afraid of? Our internal testing period only lasts a few days. If something happens, we can just die in time. Yao Yao, buy a dagger and carry it with you, and don't always carry that magic staff with you. Da He waved his hand nonchalantly. In the Lord's cemetery, the black fog in the sky became thicker and thicker, submerging the corpses that had been arranged by the nobles on the ground, and swallowed up without a trace in the green ritual light. King Rosser and the nobles had not yet reacted. They were furious but also horrified, and under the leadership of Sylvia, they quickly left the cemetery. Under the gazes of everyone, the ritual array that devoured the bodies of all the lords and former kings emitted a dark green beam of light that shot up into the sky. The dark clouds in the sky were rolling, and the sky seemed to be torn open. A slender and strange hand reached out from the crack and tore the crack in the sky wider. The next moment, the owner of the hand climbed out of the crack and then fell to the ground of the Lord's tomb. This is a slender humanoid monster with a pair of hands that are also unusually slender and can directly touch the ground. The body was naked, and the skin was gray-green, covered with cracks and sores, from which black mist and pus constantly seeped out. His face was distorted and shapeless, like a piece of stitched meat. His eyes were dark green, and his cheeks were covered with tentacles, each covered with rotten flesh and pus. When he stood up from the earth, an invisible spiritual pollution instantly swept across the entire royal city. End of this chapter. Chapter 94. Mortals are mortals after all. You have been mentally polluted by the spirit of the corrupt law. You are forced to make a will judgment. The judgment is successful. You are exempt from this mental pollution. Looking at the tall corrupt spirit, the system prompt appeared in front of Lear. He only felt a sharp pain in his head, but the pain soon disappeared. The spiritual pollution of mythical creatures. Every law god that comes to the world will carry such pollution. Those who look directly at the true body of the god will be affected by the pollution. Only those with strong will and good luck can resist the erosion of pollution. This is what it means not to look directly at God. The body of the corrupted true spirit is extremely tall, even taller than the rotten giant in the slums. The expressions of all those who witnessed the true body of the corrupt spirit twisted, and their minds became confused, dancing and twisting her hands. This spiritual pollution will not be eliminated until the corrupt true spirit disappears completely. Lear saw some people crawling on the ground and wriggling like worms, while others were hugging the street lamps and kissing them madly. The nobles in the noble area had not yet been removed, and now their ugly behavior was exposed. In the Lord's cemetery, after the corrupt spirit descended, its tentacles danced wildly, appearing extremely excited. Is this the new world? I finally escaped from that damn old dream. An illusory voice passed through everyone's heart like a tide. Albert and Sylvia were the first to awaken from the mental pollution, but the others were not so lucky. Greta also woke up, and as soon as she woke up, she saw Avian rushing towards her with red eyes. Brother, can't you care more about your sister? Do you know how worried I have been about you over the years? Avian hugged Greta as if she was someone else. Greta was so upset that she pushed Avian but couldn't break free. Many nobles around also went into a frenzy of confusion, twisting their bodies and intertwining with each other. Greta, take Avian away immediately. Albert's face was extremely solemn, and he gave the order directly to Greta, who was awake beside him. The corrupt true spirit before him possessed incredible power. Although in terms of power level, it was only at the peak of the extraordinary level and had not broken through the saint level, the aura it exuded was the most powerful Albert had ever seen in his life. Greta looked at Albert's serious expression and felt a chill in her heart. It was the first time she saw her uncle Albert so serious. Without hesitation, she couldn't care less at the moment. Greta let Avian rub against her, hugging her and kissing her from time to time. Then she picked up Avian by the waist and ran straight outside. You naughty brother, how can you hug your sister like this? Avian was still talking nonsense, and Greta could only run wildly with her face red and her head down. Are you the ones who want to stop me from coming? In the sky, the corrupted true spirit also lowered his head and looked at the few professionals who remained sane. When he saw the professionals from the Golden Church, an expression of disgust appeared on his face. You are followers of that bitch, the Golden Law. The Golden Law again. The corrupt spirit was angry, the tentacles on its body directly wrapped around Sylvia below. I can feel the strongest aura of the Golden Law on you. You must be someone favored by the Golden Law, and I will let you fall into corruption. Seeing this, Sylvia's heart tightened, and he quickly dodged the attack of the corruption spirit. Albert rushed forward and slashed the tentacles of the corrupt spirit with his giant sword. The powerful force directly cut off the tentacles, but soon, under the power of the corrupt law, the tentacles began to grow again. Fire of purification. Sylvia also waved the scepter, and the sacred golden law light burned into flames, burning the surrounding tentacles into ashes. Damn the golden law! The corrupt spirit roared, and more tentacles swept over. Everyone was struggling to resist the attack of the corrupt spirit. Albert took a deep breath. The opponent's strength was no worse than his, and was even stronger. There was no doubt that this was the most powerful creature he had ever encountered, but he was not afraid. Instead, he became excited. How long had it been since he had truly fought with all his strength? His expression became excited, and the shadow of a mad lion appeared behind Albert. Roar! The lion's roar was deafening. Albert's golden hair spread out, and the shadow of a mad lion merged into his body, as if he had turned into a lion man. The huge sword in his hand also took on a deep red halo. He exerted force with his feet, and cracks instantly appeared on the ground. Then he jumped high, and the giant sword with a deep red light slashed towards the corrupt spirit in the sky. A trace of caution appeared in the eyes of the corrupted spirit. He raised his hand, and the tentacles formed a shield of rotten meat in his hand, blocking Albert. Albert didn't care and swung his sword down directly. Boom! With a loud roar, the corrupted true spirit was knocked back a distance, and the rotten meat shield in his hand was split in half. The giant sword slashed on the slender arm of the corrupted true spirit, cutting the arm in half. The severed arm fell to the ground, and black mist and liquid continued to leak out from the broken part of the arm. The scene fell into silence, and smiles appeared on the faces of many professionals. Albert's strength gave them hope of defeating the corrupt spirit, but such hope was soon shattered by a cold voice. Human, I admit that you are powerful, but mortals are only mortals, but I am a god. The broken arm on the ground trembled for a moment, and then exploded. Countless dark pus splashed out and landed on the obviously crazy and chaotic professionals around them. as well as some professionals who didn't have time to dodge. The body of the professional stained by the dark pus quickly decayed, and his eyes were gradually eroded by the dark green power of the law of corruption. They stopped twisting their bodies frantically and stood up slowly, staring at Albert and others in the center with sinister eyes. That should be your greatest power. You cut off my arm, but it doesn't matter at all, just like the hair of you humans. The corruption spirit said contemptuously, I am the corruption spirit, the embodiment of the law of corruption. As long as there is the power of corruption, I am invincible. As he spoke, thick black mist rolled up. Under the desperate gaze of the crowd, the mist gathered at the broken end of the corrupted spirit's arm, and soon, a new arm grew out. From a distance, Lear watched all this. The power of the corrupted spirit was beyond his expectations. Players in the past had experienced several battles against the spirits of law, but none as strange as the corrupted spirit. In Lear's sight, the health bar of the corrupted spirit that had been cut down by Albert was restored in an instant. It was completely unreasonable. End of this chapter. Chapter 95. The Golden Law Goddess appears. Albert silently watched the restored corrupt spirit. The damage caused by his full-strength attack was healed so easily. Sylvia also fell silent, a feeling of powerlessness coming over him. The arrival of the corrupt true spirit has exceeded her ability to handle. Such an existence may have to be encircled and suppressed by the Golden Pope and the Golden Church's legions in order to have a chance of defeating it. Are you just going to give up like this? Run away like a lost dog. Sylvia is confident that he can escape from the corrupt spirit, but after escaping, this city will definitely turn into hell. Depressed emotions spread in everyone's hearts. Lear, who was not far away, also frowned. He had just been promoted to a high level, and the two skills he obtained were very powerful, but they did not have much effect against the corrupted spirit. Are we going to lose? This is different from the internal test plot in the previous life. Lear thought that he did not change the plot too much. At most, he just imprisoned Ophanina. Could it be that the final corrupt spirit was solved by Ophanina, but Ophanina is only at a high level now? How can she defeat the corrupt spirit? Lear was puzzled. Just when Lear was confused, a dazzling light appeared between the eyebrows of Sylvia in the center. A sacred emblem appeared on Sylvia's forehead, a symbol of her past as a saint and proof that she had been blessed by the golden law. The believers of gold will never succumb to heresy. A sacred voice sounded from the AI in the light. A shadow slowly emerged, with dazzling blonde hair, golden eyes, and a white gauze dress on her body. She exudes a noble and holy aura. Everyone was attracted by the sudden appearance of the shadow. Continuing, Lear also widened his eyes. The shadow in front of him was the goddess of the golden law, exactly the same as the statue of the golden church. He seemed to understand how Ophelia defeated the corrupt spirit during the internal test in his previous life. Was it a god who came down from nowhere? Lear was a little amused, but he calmed down. Since the goddess of the golden law had come down to take action, it was time for him to prepare to steal the chicken. He controlled the incarnation of blood and approached quietly. Arriving near the Lord's tomb, everyone was attracted by the golden law goddess and no one noticed him, except for one person, or rather one god. The goddess of the golden law glanced at Lear's hiding place inconspicuously, and when her beautiful golden eyes saw Lear, who looked like a blood apostle, she glared at him. Fiercely feeling the gaze of the goddess of the golden law, Lear's body froze in place, and he was sweating profusely. What's going on? Isn't your goddess here to corrupt the real spirit? What does it mean to look at him? Fortunately, the golden law goddess's gaze only stayed for a short while before shifting to the corrupt spirit. Lear breathed a sigh of relief. Golden law. The corrupt spirit uttered an extremely resentful voice, like a bootlicker who was cheated by a scumbag woman. You shouldn't leave the old dream without permission. The golden law goddess looked at the corrupt spirit and said lightly. If I don't leave, will I be kept here forever by you? The corrupted spirit asked angrily. This is the rule. God should not be eliminated, said the golden law goddess seriously. If your believers want to persist to the end, you can naturally spread the faith, but before the blockade is lifted, you can only stay in the old dream. She continued. The voices of the two people talking did not avoid the professionals present. The professionals seemed to have heard some secrets and were a little confused. Only Lear showed a thoughtful expression. Old dream, this is another setting in the game. To put it simply, it is a game copy. Continuing, that was something that appeared long after the game was released. It is very difficult for players to level up in the game, and there is almost no other way to gain experience points except completing tasks. You can kill monsters to level up, But there aren't many monsters to spawn, and monsters won't refresh. So things like old dreams came into being, which are filled with twisted and strange monsters, and can be refreshed infinitely after death. As soon as the old dream appeared, it became a fixed place for players to upgrade. After hearing the conversation between the goddess of golden law and the corrupted spirit, Lear had an idea. Could it be that there is actually a god in those old dreams? I've had enough of the rules you set. The corrupted spirit didn't want to waste any more time talking to the goddess of the golden law, and the thick black fog began to churn with anger. Those who don't follow the rules will be purified. The golden law goddess did not tolerate the corrupt spirits at all. She pointed to Sylvia behind her. My believers, please eliminate the heretical gods. The sacred golden light enveloped Sylvia, and the magical aura in Sylvia's body rose rapidly, soon reaching a terrifying level. Ha, you expect your followers to kill me? The corrupted true spirit laughed. You made the rules and restricted yourselves. You can't kill me directly, and it's impossible for you to kill me with your followers. The goddess of golden law did not respond to the words of the corrupted spirit. She just glanced at the place where Lear was hiding, and then her figure slowly disappeared. Sylvia came back to her senses and felt her body filled with strength, just like the blessing the goddess of golden law once gave her, but now the power was even stronger. Judgment of the Holy Sword. Sylvia shouted, and the scepter in his hand emitted a dazzling light. In the sky, holy swords burning with purifying flames fell from the clouds and continuously pierced the bodies of the corrupt true spirits. The black fog around was also purified a lot, and the body of the corrupt true spirit was obviously shrunk a little, but it did not fall down. I told you, you can't kill me. The corrupt spirit roared, and its tentacles roiled towards the professionals who had been corroded on the ground. Final part, the tentacles wrapped around these professionals, pulling them little by little in front of the corrupt spirit. The dark green energy was transferred from these professionals to the corrupt spirit through the tentacles. Gradually, the damage caused by the Holy Sword's judgment was smoothed out, and the health bar above the head of the corrupted true spirit was slowly recovering. How long can the power given to you by the golden law last? There are countless humans in this city, and I can squander their lives at will. When the power in you disappears, this city will still be shrouded in the power of corruption. The corruption spirit laughed. Lear, who was hiding, watched this scene quietly. Sylvia now had the power to kill the corrupted spirit, but the corrupted spirit's recovery ability was too strong, and he just happens to have the ability to stop blood recovery. In that case, it was time for him to perform. He took out the bloody rose, and at this moment, a powerful force suddenly surged into his body. You have received the attention of the Lord of Blood and gained his power. Your class is temporarily upgraded to extraordinary, your attributes have undergone extraordinary transformation, and the effect of attribute points has been greatly improved. The fourth round of the Blood Renaissance mission has been changed to completely kill the corrupted true spirit and sacrifice it to the Lord of Blood. End of this chapter. Chapter 96, The Real Blood Demon. For K, you have obtained the Blood Apostle skill, Blood Source Unleashed. A series of system prompts popped up in front of Lear's eyes, and a thick blood mist enveloped Lear's whole body. He has undergone an extraordinary transformation. Lear only felt an extremely violent force eroding his body, his flesh and blood. After undergoing extraordinary transformation, different legal professionals will undergo a certain degree of physical changes that are in line with the law. Under the blood prison face, his hair gradually turned pale and his pupils turned scarlet. The violent power directly dispersed the black fog around him. The power of the heretic law attracted everyone's attention. Sylvia, the corrupted spirit, and Albert all looked at the blood apostle shrouded in blood mist. Only a pair of bright red eyes shone slowly in the blood mist. Who are you? The corrupt spirit asked in surprise. Sylvia looked nervously at the blood apostle who suddenly appeared. She didn't know what this apostle of the blood law wanted to do previously. Derek was killed by the blood apostle, so he shouldn't be an enemy, right? Lear ignored everyone's reactions. He twisted his neck. The power he gained after the extraordinary transformation made him feel extremely satisfied, and he also had a new skill name, Blood Release Introduction. This ability can only be used by the apostles chosen by the Lord of Blood. You can trace the true meaning of power from blood effect. By fusing the blood of any creature above the extraordinary level, you can release the original power of blood from it. Different blood will gain different skill effects. Using this skill will continuously consume magic points. Current blood quality, none. Learning requirements, blood law affinity 80%, mystical attribute 50. The extraordinary class blood apostle has only one skill, and the effect description is also vague. Lier stared at the skill information on the panel, and raised his head after a moment of silence. Since you don't understand the effect of the skill, just try it out. I am the Apostle of Blood, the Oracle of Invisible Blood, and I will slay the alien gods who blaspheme blood. Lier stepped forward, and the blood turned into a whirlpool that wrapped around the invisible night rose, turning it into a hideous blood-red rose. The bright red blood law rippled around his body, completely enveloping his body. You activated the skill blood source release. Since you failed to fuse other blood essences and stimulate your own blood power, your overall attributes have been greatly improved. The magic of blood wrapped up Lier, and his body slowly expanded. Under the transformation of the magic of blood, he became taller and gradually grew to a height of about 3 meters. The blood magic turned into a physical entity, and Lier's body became hideous. The hand holding the bloody rose turned into a real devil-like claw arm. Lier now can no longer be called a human being in terms of appearance. He is turned into a complete devil, but even so, it still gives people a feeling of nobility and elegance. The Blood King's robe expanded adaptively, still wrapping Lier's body, like a noble among demons. Feeling the changes in his body, Lier took a deep breath. With the help of the liberation of his blood, he could feel the strength in his body being raised again. He also understood the effect of this skill, a transformation skill. According to the skill description of blood release, it should be possible to obtain different transformation effects by fusing different extraordinary bloods. Now that there is no fusion of extraordinary blood, the effect of blood liberation is simply to enhance all of one's own attributes, but this is powerful enough. Lier can feel that his body has improved by another 50% after its extraordinary transformation. He glanced at his character name, Blood Source Liberation, Blood King. It has changed. The aura that Lier exuded after the transformation made Sylvia and Albert's faces change, and even the corruption spirit showed a fearful look. You should be a law god who survived from an earlier era, right? There is no hatred between us. Why do you want to help that bitch of the golden law? The corrupt true spirit was somewhat indignant. All the gods of the old era were trapped in the old dream. Why would there be gods standing on the side of the golden law? Facing the questioning of the corrupt spirit, Lier did not respond. What the Lord of Blood wanted was not to help the golden law, but to turn the corrupt spirit into a sacrifice. He raised the bloody rose, and appeared in front of the corrupt spirit in the next second. The heavy sword carrying the power of the blood law pierced the corrupt spirit's body without mercy. Seeing that the blood apostle was unmoved, the corrupted true spirit became even more angry. Do you think I'm afraid of you? The pitch-black tentacles wrapped around the sky along with the roar of the corrupt spirit, and covered the sky with pitch-black mist. The tentacles blocked all of Lier's escape routes. After the tentacles came into contact with the surrounding objects, they quickly turned them into decayed and dilapidated. It can be seen that the corruption spirit is really angry. The power of the law of corruption carried by its tentacles can quickly corrupt everything. But Lier remains calm, holding the blood-red rose in his hand. He turned his body in an elegant arc and passed directly through the blockade of tentacles under the incredulous gaze of the corrupt spirit. It's like a phantom, the dynasty sword skills that come with the bloody rose. This is an absolutely powerful skill. Unable to select for 1 second, this is a different concept from being invincible for 1 second. It is much stronger than being invincible. After Lier escaped the deadly siege of the corrupt spirit, the night rose in his hand ignited a bright red flame, as if blood was burning. The next moment, Aslan's royal swordsmanship was activated, and Lier's body appeared above the head of the corrupt spirit, and he stabbed the sword fiercely into the eyes of the corrupt spirit, burning bloodthorn. Dirty black liquid burst out from the eyes of the corrupted spirit. Lier quickly dodged, and he could see a negative state appearing above the corrupted spirit's head. The corrupt true spirit that had been constantly devouring the humans around it had stopped recovering its health. How long do you plan to see? After being hit, Lier dodged to the side and shouted to the shocked Sylvia and Albert. The two of them finally reacted. As a believer in Golden War, you want me, a believer in heretical laws, to be the savior? Lier did not hesitate to ridicule him. He is now the Blood King, so he must clarify the character of the Blood King: powerful, noble, and elegant, with aristocratic pride. Be an elegant devil. When the game is officially launched, such a demon will surely attract the attention of players. What is a player? Seeking power, mystery, and status. His current appearance is indeed very ferocious, and perhaps he cannot attract the favor of female players, but what he wants are those players who truly pursue strength and the joy of fighting. Only such a powerful player can assist the Golden Church in its crackdown on heretical laws. As for those players who like beautiful shapes, just let them seduce themselves. He is very confident about his own appearance. Sylvia reacted and her face looked a little grim. But she didn't refute anything. She was already very lucky that such a powerful heretic didn't go against the Golden Church. Even thinking this in his heart, Sylvia still felt a sense of unreality. Golden heresy, fighting side by side. She raised the scepter in her hand and joined the battlefield. Albert also looked deeply at the blood apostle, raised his giant sword and rushed forward. The holy light and the mad lion danced wildly in the black fog, and soon Sylvia and Albert discovered that the corrupt spirit's devouring and recovery ability had disappeared. Is this also the ability of the blood apostle? The two of them took a look at the devil standing not far away and were shocked again. Covered in blood, Lear watched quietly, not in a hurry to attack again. When no one was paying attention, a faint blood mist mixed with the black mist spread from around him to the surroundings. There seemed to be something in the faint blood mist, floating in the wind. As a result, there was a trace of blood on the ground. Neither Sylvia nor Albert noticed Lear's little action. Somewhere in the royal city, Li Huan and the other two were lying on the ground, crawling like maggots. You have been mentally polluted by the corrupt spirit, your willpower has failed, and you have fallen into a state of madness. You have lost control of your character. Lost control of the character again, but fortunately, perhaps because they were a little far away from the black fog, the three of them just fell into madness and did not turn into undead like last time. Li Huan was a little speechless. After such a long period of internal testing, he lost control of the character every time when a big scene came. Is this how this game is played, even if what happened is beyond the player's current ability? But can you at least show me a CG? But there is no CG either. She just caught a glimpse of the towering monster and went crazy. Is this reasonable? The key is that she can't commit suicide. The gaming experience is extremely poor. Li Huan was indignant. Just as she was complaining about the game's mechanics, a twisted figure walked out of an alley not far away. The man walked crookedly, and when he saw Li Huan and the other two lying on the ground, he let out a terrifying roar. Li Huan looked at the person walking towards her with horror. There was no healthy skin left on that person's face. It had become rotten. This was a female noble who had turned into an undead. Li Huan could only watch as the undead staggered in front of her, then pounced on her and started biting her. The rotten smell and the gnawing feeling made Li Huan feel creepy. Am I playing some horror game? Sometimes the game is too real, which can be annoying. Li Huan suppressed the nausea in her heart and could only watch herself being eaten without being able to do anything. The blood bar above her head was decreasing little by little. Finally, after dozens of seconds, the health bar was emptied, her consciousness disappeared instantly, and she returned to the resurrection point. After being resurrected, Li Huan took a deep breath and his mood became a little gloomy. After a while, Yao Yao and Dahe also came back to life, and they both looked frightened. Sister Huan. Yao Yao threw herself directly into Li Huan's arms. She was eaten to death by the undead but was unable to resist. Such a situation was indeed very terrifying for a girl. It's okay, it's just a game. Li Huan comforted. As she spoke, she looked up at the sky not far away. The indescribable figure can still be seen in the black fog. There was a strange gleam in Li Huan's eyes. In the quick glance just now, she couldn't see the whole appearance of the creature, but there was no doubt that it was the kind of alien monster she liked. Sister Huan, let's find a place to hide. Yao Yao grabbed Li Huan's hand in panic. Li Huan said reflexively, no. Well, I mean, that monster over there is obviously an important boss in the game. Shouldn't we go check it out? The time for the internal test is running out, and we still haven't seen a truly powerful boss in its entirety. Don't you feel regretful? She said righteously, so we have to go and see. Lord's Cemetery. This time, the corrupted spirit had been beaten extremely badly, with both his hands and legs cut off by Albert. He could only crawl on the ground like a bug. The holy sword in the sky continued to fall, carrying with it deadly purifying fire. What on earth have you done to me? The corrupted spirit roared. Ever since each attack of the blood apostle hit him, he found that he could no longer devour the corroded humans to restore their lives. The power of the corrupt law was restricted, and as a heretical law, the apostle of blood could actually seal his power. He was one of the most powerful gods of the last age, and when destruction came, he was also one of the few law gods who survived. He had never heard of the law of blood, but they were all poor creatures living in the old dream. Why could the power of blood suppress him? The health bar above the head of the corrupted spirit was reduced to only 1/10, but Sylvia and Albert did not relax at all, and Lear continued to move through the black fog. Compared to Sylvia and Albert's fighting posture, Lear's is much more elegant. 1 second it was above the head of the corrupted spirit, and the next second it appeared on the back of the corrupted spirit. Every blow could reduce the health bar of the corrupted spirit by a small amount, and the pain it brought was more intense than that of Sylvia and Albert. Every time the sword fell, the body of the corrupt spirit would tremble. The inherent characteristics of the bloody rose can magnify the target's pain to the extreme. Another hit and Lear fell to the ground. The corrupt spirit only had a little bit of health left, but he stopped. What the Lord of Blood Source requires is the complete killing of the corrupt true spirit and its sacrifice, and that is all that is required. He moved again, this time no longer attacking the corrupted spirit, but his target was Sylvia. Sylvia was attacking seriously, but before she could react, she saw the bloody demon coming in front of her and punching her in the face. Sylvia flew out immediately, and the scepter in his hand also flew out of his hand. The holy swords that kept falling from the sky disappeared in an instant. Everyone was shocked by Lear's actions. Under everyone's disbelieving gazes, the blood demon raised his hand. As for the appearance after transformation, you can refer to Munger in the Elden Ring. It looks almost the same, but he is not holding a fork. To be honest, the fork is not very good looking. Omega, end of this chapter. Chapter 97 Blood Lord, how dare you snatch someone from me? 3K, what are you doing? Albert shouted. The blood demon stood quietly where he was, completely ignoring Albert's scolding, and only an invisible blood-colored ripple swept across the entire place. Before the surviving professionals could react, branches began to sprout from their skin, and blood-red roses with thorns grew from the branches. In an instant, everyone felt that they had lost control of their bodies. Even Albert felt an extremely evil force corroding his body. He wanted to mobilize the power of the law of war to resist, but the long battle with the corrupt spirit had consumed a lot of the magic power in his body. The remaining magic power alone is not enough to reach the heretical power growing in the body. Lear had a blank expression on his face. This was the blood seed he had released long ago. A faint blood mist has invaded the bodies of everyone present. High-level blood apostle skill, blood blooming. By silently releasing blood seeds, it invades the target's body, slowly gathers strength, and finally grows out. People who are infected by the blood seeds will lose control of their bodies and have their magic power constantly devoured, becoming puppets controlled by Lear. Lear can also choose to detonate and let the blood seeds bloom completely, causing true damage that ignores all defenses. Unless it is a creature without flesh and blood, even a strong man like Albert would be seriously injured if he does not die when Lear detonates and lets the blood seed bloom. This power is similar to the operation of the corrupt spirit transforming the undead. The difference is that as long as Lear does not let the blood seed bloom, the controlled person will not be in danger of life. The branches of the blood-red rose entangled Sylvia and hung her up. The thorns on the branches cut through Sylvia's sacrificial robe, revealing some of her beauty. She gritted her teeth, feeling extremely angry. As expected, heretics are heretics. How could they stand with the Golden Church? I actually believe the other person. Sylvia gritted her teeth. Don't make that expression. I just want you to be quiet for a while. The bloody demon walked up to Sylvia and lifted the chin of the former saint who still had her charm. The corrupt true spirit on the side saw this scene and showed a look of joy. So you are an undercover agent? I knew it. We are all heretics. How could we be in collusion with the golden rule? The corrupted true spirit kept talking, but before he could finish, he felt an evil force surging out of his body. Dense blood-red roses suddenly emerged, entangled the corrupted true spirit, and continuously devoured the magic power in his body. The rose flowers covered the body of the corrupt spirit, as if the corrupt spirit was being used as a flower pot. You talk too much nonsense. The bloody demon turned his head. Any living creature made of flesh and blood, even rotten flesh, will be eroded when not stimulated. The blood seed flows in the body of a living being like normal blood. Once activated, it will grow into a blood rose. Silently, this is the power of blood. The corrupt believers took great pains to allow the true spirit of corruption to descend, but now they have completely served the purpose for the apostle of blood. The golden church was also used as a tool. Everyone looked at the blood apostle standing in the center, and the scene suddenly became stiff. Not far away, 3 people who had been transformed into undead were watching this scene intently. It was Li Huanhuan and the other 2 who came to the Lord's tomb at the risk of their lives. They were transformed into undead again. Li Huanhuan only wanted to enter the black fog to see the alien monster, but she forgot that the black fog would transform them into undead. By the time she realized it, it was too late. However, fortunately, they were lucky in relying on the instinct of the undead. The 3 of them still arrived at the Lord's cemetery just in time to see the scene where the bloody demon bound everyone. The elegant demon stood in the center and just waved his hand, and Countless gorgeous blood-red roses bloomed from everyone's body. It's like a gorgeous performance. As for the corrupt true spirit whose limbs had been cut off, Li Huanhuan had completely forgotten about it and was just staring at the bloody demon in the center. She recognized that the other person was the blood apostle Meng whom she had met before, but he had become more charming, and the black robe on his body also gave Meng a more noble temperament. I actually felt the ultimate elegance from a monster? This is quite cool. Can you learn this skill of growing roses from this boss? If you learn this skill, are you still worried about not being able to find a girlfriend? This must be an important NPC, right? This boss also intervened to resolve the slums before. There was a lot of discussion in Li Huanhuan's live broadcast room. After a series of operations in the slums and now in the cemetery, the NPC Blood Apostle has been engraved in their minds. Lier didn't know that his heroic performance was seen by the players. He just stared at the corrupted spirit. What are you doing? The corrupted true spirit had no idea what the blood apostle in front of him was thinking. Me? The bloody demon laughed. Of course I will judge the alien god who blasphemed blood. As he said that, the demon stomped his foot and jumped high. The bloody demon came to control. The bloody rose turned into a bright red spear. His eyes were stern, and he stabbed directly at the head of the corrupt true spirit. He is now at a temporary extraordinary level, and is under the blessing of blood liberation. Under the effect of Aslan's royal swordsmanship, his attributes are completely transformed into strength. The horror of this attack reached its peak, and it was completely different from the attack that Lear used to kill Darich before. The true spirit of corruption felt the breath of death. The spear in the air kept getting closer and closer. The irresistible force directly pierced into the true spirit of corruption's head, nailing the true spirit of corruption's skull directly to the ground. The little blood bar on the head of the corrupted true spirit suddenly disappeared, leaving only a barely visible trace of blood. After delivering this blow, Lear fell from the air and stood on top of the corrupt spirit. You, what exactly are you going to do? What good will it do you to kill me? The corrupted true spirit said with extreme anger, but his tone was very weak. Lear reached out and grasped the hilt of the bloody rose that pierced the head of the corrupt true spirit. He didn't say anything, but a strong bloody light emanated from his body. With the blood-red rose as the center, a magical circle appeared under Lear's feet and soon completely enveloped the body of the corrupt spirit. This is the sacrificial array taught to him by the Lord of Blood. It is similar to the sacrificial array that Lear used to communicate with the Lord of Blood at the beginning, but it is much larger. You want to sacrifice me? Feeling the horrible power on his body, the corrupted spirit finally realized what Lear was doing. It turns out that the talk of desecrating the blood was all lies. The real purpose was to devour him. The Lord of Blood wants to devour him to restore his strength. The anger in the heart of the corrupt true spirit reached its peak. There was actually a god more evil than him who actually wanted to devour the god. Even he just wanted to descend into this city and devour the humans in the city to restore his strength. You can't do this, the corrupted spirit screamed. He could accept being purified by the golden rule, but he could never accept being devoured. The bloody demon ignored the accusations of the corrupt spirit, and the magic circle under his feet became brighter and brighter. As Sylvia, who was not far away, also saw the blood demon's intention, devouring God. This God who holds the blood law is more dangerous than corruption. Stop now. The corrupted true spirit was completely panicked. What kind of reward did the blood law give you? I can give you double it. No, I can give you everything. I can make you my king. Become my spokesman, and I will grant you the essence of corrupt laws. The corrupt spirit shouted as if he had risked everything. Lear was stunned for a moment. The source of corrupt laws, up to now, he only possesses the essence of blood. Although he has met other people who possess the essence, he has not figured out what the essence is. Could it be related to the so-called king? He was thinking, but before he could think for too long, the Blood King's robe on his body began to emit light. A figure with white hair and red eyes appeared behind Lear, stared at the corrupt spirit on the ground, and slapped it hard. How dare you snatch someone from me? A crisp voice rang out. The sudden appearance of the figure stunned everyone, especially Lear. He stared blankly at the girl and read beside him. She had a small body, a very delicate appearance, and a fierce aura. What is this? Lear was confused. Do you want to agree to him too? The girl turned her head and stared at Lear with her bright red eyes, with a hint of annoyance in her eyes. What? Did you hesitate when he said he wanted to make you king? The girl asked viciously. No, I just. Lear subconsciously wanted to refute. He was just curious, so he thought about it. He never thought of becoming the king of corrupt spirits. You bastard. You are obviously my king, but you are still looking at that guy outside. The girl suddenly felt aggrieved. The tone was particularly pitiful, like a poor girl who was abandoned by a scumbag. The corners of Lear's eyes twitched slightly. After hearing what the girl said, he almost understood the other party's identity. Are you the Lord of Blood? You are wearing my clothes and using my power, but you still don't know who I am? The girl widened her eyes. The atmosphere became awkward again. The people around looked like they were watching a show. There seemed to be some story between the Blood Apostle and the Lord of Divine Blood. A bloody soap opera is being played out in which a poor god worries himself to death about his believers, but in the end his believers don't recognize him and even want to change jobs. Lear sighed helplessly. What was going on? They usually just gave out tasks and the two had never actually met each other, so how could he know her? This Lord of Blood origin is a little too unreasonable. Although the tasks issued by the Lord of Blood origin before made Lear feel that the Lord of Blood origin is unreliable. I have absolutely no intention of agreeing to the corrupt spirit, he explained. End of this chapter. Chapter 98. The Queen's fate cannot be changed. 3K. The Lord of Blood origin snorted lightly, still a little angry for the law spirit. The chosen king is unique, and can also be said to be a companion. Originally, she planned to hide on the Blood King's robe, but the corrupted spirit wanted to steal her kingship, so she couldn't help it and came out to slap the corrupted spirit. You'd better think so. The Lord of Blood glared at Lear fiercely, then looked at the corrupt true spirit on the ground. Hurry up and sacrifice this disgusting guy for me. Lear nodded helplessly, holding the bloody rose in his hand, and increased his strength. Not far away, the three big black people who had been watching the situation of the Blood Apostles were also surprised by the sudden appearance of the Lord of Blood. Brothers, I feel like I'm in love. Dahe stared at the white-haired, red-eyed girl floating beside the Blood Apostle and said to the live broadcast room, "What kind of amazing appearance is this? And white hair and red eyes. Chinese special attack, I declare that she will be my wife from now on. Whoever urinates yellow, wake him up, he is dreaming in broad daylight. Fuck, there's a person growing on my XP. This game allows you to pinch your face. It is absolutely impossible for anyone to look like this in real life." All the men in the live broadcast room were excited. Dahe also stared with his eyes wide open, but he could not control the body of the undead, so he could only follow the undead's chaotic movements. Soon, the girl's figure was moved out of the camera, and only a few white feet could be seen. Lohe, please stop shaking the camera, I can't see anyone. Immediately, some people expressed their dissatisfaction. This foot is so white, I like it so much. There are also perverts who make perverted remarks. Dahe was a little anxious when he couldn't see the white-haired girl. He couldn't control the live camera. Lear didn't know that the appearance of the Lord of Blood had once again made the players excited. He also thought that the Lord of Blood was very beautiful, about the same level as Milia. He continued with the sacrificial ritual. The corrupt spirit was in complete despair. He fell silent, like the last calm before madness. "Ha, you want to devour me?" The corrupt spirit suddenly laughed. "I have finally survived the destruction and broken free from the cage of the old dream. Do you want to devour me too?" The corrupt true spirit became crazy, and the corrupt laws around it also became chaotic. Thick black fog began to gather towards the corrupt true spirit and continuously merged into the body of the corrupt true spirit. "Let the king you chose be buried with me," he roared madly. The black fog around him became more and more violent, and Lear clearly felt a terrifying force shaking. The Blood Lord's expression also changed. "You want to detonate the law of corruption? Ha, so what? You can't stop me." The corruption spirit laughed wildly. "The power of corruption will be completely liberated, and this city will be shrouded in the power of corruption. I will die, but your king will be buried with me. Give up the sacrifice ceremony and leave here immediately." The Lord of Bloodsource gritted his teeth and immediately said to Lear. Lear was stunned for a moment, not understanding what it meant to detonate the corrupt law, but he could also feel the seriousness of the matter. The unreasonable Lord of Blood even asked him to give up the mission just to escape for his life. He can't leave. Pitch-black tentacles extended from the black fog and directly bound Lear. Lear tried to break free, but the tentacles were now more than twice as strong as before. However, none of this frightened Lear. This body was just the incarnation of his blood, and he could teleport to the original body's location at will. What will happen if the corrupt law is detonated? Lear looked at the Lord of Blood. This was what he really cared about: corruption will be liberated. The Lord of Blood said in a deep voice, originally, corruption was controlled by the corruption true spirit, but once it is liberated, corruption will completely occupy this city. The law is a rule, the essence of the power of the gods. This place will become a hell of corruption. Listening to the words of the Lord of Blood, Lear fell silent. Being called hell by a god, one can imagine how horrible it would be when corrupt laws explode. The royal city will turn into hell, everyone will die, or even live a life worse than death. Thought he could escape, but what about the others? Can you stop him? Lear asked. I'm very sorry. Allowing you to be temporarily promoted to the extraordinary level is already my current limit. What you see of me is just an illusion of me. The Lord of Bloodsource shook his head helplessly. The unrest in the aristocratic district did not affect the citizen district and the slums. Most of the people in the royal city just looked at the black fog rising in the noble area and prayed that the heretics could be eliminated as soon as possible. They had no idea that a catastrophe was about to happen. In the palace, Queen Philia held a scepter in her hand. The entire scepter is made of silver metal, and a huge dark blue gem is inlaid on the top of the scepter. It is the size of 2 fists and emits a mysterious glow. The only flaw is that there is a gap in the gem on the scepter, which is regrettable. On the mirror of the gem, Philia saw everything that happened in the Lord's cemetery. The Apostle of Blood was bound by the corrupted spirit, and the Lord of Blood was floating in the air. The followers of the Golden Rule, Albert, and her husband were all bound by the thorns of the rose. The situation has become a stalemate. Looking at the image in the mirror, Philia's expression was somewhat struggling. Suddenly, the gemstone emitted a faint blue light. The images in the mirror disappeared, replaced by Philia's face. Are you still hesitating? Philia in the mirror whispered. Queen Philia looked at herself in the mirror and fell silent. You know the mission you carry. Philia in the mirror continued. That is your destiny, you cannot disobey. The awakening of Qinqing requires your sacrifice. As a believer of Qinqing, you should give everything for Qinqing. Queen Philia showed an even more struggling expression. She remembered what Lear had told her about Milia's dream, and thought of Milia who was imprisoned in Steward House. Her daughter, or Qinqing, could not remain buried in the shadows forever. If Philia raised her head, and the image of herself in the mirror disappeared, returning to the scene of the Lord's graveyard, go and meet your destiny. A deep voice sounded in Philia's heart. She closed her eyes silently, and when she opened them again, her gaze became deep. Philia turned around, holding the scepter, and walked out of the palace. Lord's cemetery. Lear was faced with a choice. The vibrations of the corrupt laws around him became more and more violent. He could not stop the detonation of the corrupt laws. If he wanted to survive, he could only flee like a stray dog. Lear thought of Eno and Milia in the mansion, and Avian and Greta who had left. He glanced at Albert and the many professionals who were tied up by him. Not only them, but also the people of the entire royal city. He had no time to save Milia, nor did he have time to look for Avian. The most he could do was to save his father. Everyone will die, and he will just escape and live a miserable life. This is not the result he wants. Is there really no way out? Lear felt powerless for the first time, but at this moment, a dazzling starlight illuminated the darkness. Under the already dim sky, a figure slowly walked over. Queen Philia held a scepter in her hand, and her whole body was wrapped in starlight. Philia. Rosser's pupils suddenly shrank. He glanced at the scepter in Philia's hand, and his expression became extremely ugly. Albert also frowned and looked at the believers of the Golden Sea. Sylvia and you both looked at the queen, who appeared with astonishment. This is a heretical law. Sylvia said in disbelief. What is the problem? Forget about the corrupt laws. They fled to Briefville from the Rhodes Empire. But what about blood? She had never heard that Philia, now a queen, would also show heresy. This is the queen of a country. Her husband is even a believer in gold. An extraordinary professional of the Golden Law, a professional of the Golden Rule, actually married a heretic. Sylvia felt blasphemous, and she looked at Rose, who had a gloomy expression on his face. Lear also looked at the queen in shock. He had clearly told her about Milia's dream, so why did the queen still show up, even directly exposing his identity as a Qinqing law professional? The queen ignored everyone's reactions and walked straight to Lear. The tentacles around her actually spread out under the starlight, like a mouse seeing a cat. Queen Philia looked at the devil in front of her with a peaceful look. She knew the true identity of the devil, but she did not reminisce with Lear. "Please make way, King of Blood," she said with a smile. The tentacles on his body were untied, and Lear subconsciously walked to the side. Queen Philia raised the scepter, and the Starlight Seal Stone in Lear's storage ring lit up. The Starlight Sealing Stone directly broke through the space of the storage ring and appeared in the outside world. Under Lear's shocked gaze, the Starlight Sealing Stone fell into the gap of the gem on the scepter and merged into it. Lear was stunned. How could someone steal other people's equipment? The scepter with the gemstone added emitted a dazzling light. Philia placed the scepter in front of his chest and suspended it in the air. "Whose believer are you?" The corrupt spirit reacted at this time, and his corrupt laws were actually trembling. Queen Philia ignored corruption's words, and the next second, a huge magic circle enveloped the body of the corruption spirit, and the chains shining with starlight completely bound the corruption spirit. The corrupt law magic power around was actually completely sealed in the magic circle. "No, how could you possibly seal my laws?" The corrupt spirit went completely crazy. Chinching sealing technique? The Lord of Bloodsource looked at this scene and subconsciously said the name of the magic circle. "Hurry, kill him," the queen said to Lear hurriedly. Lear also reacted and grasped the bloody rose that was inserted on the head of the corrupt spirit again. "Believer of Chinching, why are you helping me?" asked the Lord of Bloodsource. "Respected gods, I didn't help you, I just followed my mission." The queen shook her head. "Is this your mission? Do you know what the believers of the Golden Law will do to you?" The Lord of Blood Origin shook his head. The queen remained silent and prevented the corrupt spirit from detonating the corrupt laws, but she was still a heretic, and the Golden Church would have no second way of dealing with heretics. What awaits her is only the judgment of gold. End of this chapter. Chapter 99 The Weird Queen. 3K, what a ridiculous mission. The Lord of Bloodsource showed a disdainful expression. She stopped talking to the queen and looked at Lear, who was maintaining the sacrificial circle. "Chen Xing is not trustworthy. Don't trust the girl next to you too much." The Lord of Bloodsource put his arms around Lear's neck and whispered in Lear's ear. Lear was stunned for a moment, not knowing what the Lord of Blood meant. The Lord of Blood did not explain, but just stared at Lear. "You are the king I chose, it is enough for you to stay by my side forever." She hugged Lear's neck tightly. Although she was just a shadow, Lear felt a little suffocated. After the Lord of Blood Origin said the last sentence, he turned into a stream of light and merged back into the long robe of the Blood King. It was not until the Lord of Blood left that Lear reacted and his expression became a little complicated. The Lord of Blood may look beautiful and petite, but in essence he is still a god who has survived for who knows how many years. Although their actions seem unreliable, no god is a naive fool, and everything they do has a purpose. This time, the sacrificial array on the ground had been constructed, and under the queen's ban, the corrupt spirit could not move. A red moon appeared in the sky at some point, and then it split in the middle and turned into a hideous mouth. Then it fell down suddenly. He swallowed the corrupt spirit in one gulp. The corrupt spirit let out a shrill scream, and Lear even heard the sound of something being chewed and crushed. This is devouring? So simple and crude. When the body of the corrupt true spirit completely disappeared in the bright red magic circle, a drop of gray-green liquid was suspended in the air. "Take it. This is my reward to you." The voice of the Lord of Blood Origin sounded in Lear's heart. "You have completed the 4th round of the mission Blood Renaissance. You have obtained the blood of corruption, 5th ring of Blood Renaissance. Follow the guidance of blood to find the dusty blood dynasty in the old dream. Mission rewards? Failure penalty, none." The system panel popped up, and the gray-green liquid in the air floated in front of Lear. "Corrupted god's blood. Mythology. The blood left behind by the gods who govern corrupt laws after their death contains the power of the origin of corrupt laws. When you reach the extraordinary limit, use it to advance to the extraordinary level." The Lord of Bloodsource added in Lear's mind. Lear remembered the skills he had acquired after advancing to the extraordinary level with the power of the Lord of Blood. To liberate the blood source, one needs to fuse the blood of creatures above the extraordinary level in order to unleash its power. Corrupted divine blood. This is the divine blood from the gods, objects of a mythical class. A class Lear had never even heard of. The most powerful item he had ever seen in his previous life was only at the legendary level. If he uses divine blood to advance to the extraordinary level, what kind of powerful power will he gain? Lear's mood was agitated, but before he could be happy for long, he felt the strength in his body rapidly ebbing away like a flood. The power protection of the Lord of Blood was lifted. His body quickly returned to its original appearance and became normal human size. Then a feeling of emptiness from the bottom of my heart surged up. This is the feeling brought about by the massive consumption of magic power. After experiencing the battle with the corrupt spirit, There is not much magic power left in Lear's body. Without the supply of magic power, the blood-red roses that were entangled around everyone quickly withered and turned into ashes. The bound Sylvia fell to the ground, and the magic power in her body was almost gone due to being constantly devoured by the bloody rose. She stood up tremblingly and looked at the Blood Apostle and Queen Philia on the other side. It seems that the only ones who still have the ability to fight are the Blood Apostle and the Queen, but these two are heretics. If they wanted to kill people here to silence them, no one would even have a chance to resist. Sylvia gritted his teeth, the humiliation in his heart becoming more and more magnified. She was blessed by the golden law, but in the end she was just used as a thug by the apostles of blood. Even now, if she wants to survive, she can only pray for the mercy of the heretics. What a shame. The atmosphere became a little heavy, and Lier looked at the other professionals who were on guard across from him. Leave here, King of Blood. A deep voice sounded. Queen Philia looked at the devil in front of her. Leave here, your goal has been achieved and there is no need to stay here any longer. The Queen said again. Lier frowned as he listened to the Queen's words. What does it mean? The Queen asked him to leave, but she had no intention of leaving with him. Didn't she know that her identity as a heretic law professional had been exposed? If you stay, you will only be judged by the golden law. What about you? Lier asked in a deep voice. Queen Philia did not answer Lear's words. Her expression was cold. She just walked to Lier and handed the scepter in her hand to Lier. Give it to Milia. After saying this, the Queen turned around and walked towards King Rosser. Lier stood there blankly, the scepter in his hand emitting a mysterious light. He didn't understand what the Queen wanted to do when the heresy had already been exposed. He did not run away but walked into the trap. By the way, why didn't the Queen disguise her identity, but directly exposed her own Morningstar law? Lier felt that the current Queen was particularly strange. The Queen in front of him was not as amiable as she was when they met before. Instead, she became extremely cold, as if she had become a different person. Philia. Rosser looked at his wife walking towards him, not knowing what to say. The Queen walked over to Rosser and laughed. She gently stroked her husband's cheek and said, I'm sorry, Rosser, for keeping this secret from you for so long. I am actually a believer in heretical law, she said. Rosser was stunned. He knew about this from the beginning. Why did Philia say such a thing? After a long silence, Rosser sighed and said, Philia, even if you are a heretic, you are still my wife. You should just leave here. No one can stop you. If I leave, what about you? The Queen said gently. The Golden Church will not forgive a believer who marries a heretic. Sylvia on the side was slightly moved. Did the Queen sacrifice herself voluntarily in order to prevent Rose from being tried by the Vatican? This was too selfless, and she envied such feelings. Everyone else was also touched by the Queen's feelings for Rosser. Only Lier, who was standing far away, narrowed his eyes. With his face covered in blood, he stared at the Queen. This was really abnormal. He did not doubt the Queen's feelings for the king, but when the Queen said she was willing to accept the trial of the Golden Church for Rose, Lier always felt an indescribable awkwardness. He did not feel touched, but instead a feeling of unreality came over him. It seemed like the Queen was seeking death on purpose, which was too contrived and totally illogical. The Queen ignored everyone's reactions. She just slowly lowered her head and leaned in Rosser's arms. From an angle where no one could see, the Queen blinked, and her charming blue eyes suddenly lost their color. Like a doll without a soul, the situation developed with many twists and turns. People were worried that the heretics would kill people to silence them, but unexpectedly, the Queen turned herself in. The only one left was the Blood Apostle, still standing not far away. Sylvia still did not let her guard down. In her opinion, the Blood Apostle was the most dangerous. Lier stared at everyone for a long time, then finally turned around and disappeared into the night. Lier went straight back to Stuart Mansion. The Queen's condition made him feel very strange, but as his magic power was almost exhausted, he could not take the Queen away by force. The protection of the Lord of Blood had disappeared, and he had returned to a high-level state. The blue secret dewdrop bottle was also used in the battle just now. Although so many professionals around him were also short of magic power like him, there were also a group of extraordinary professionals such as Albert. With their own attributes, it was difficult for him to resist. The matter of the Queen still needs to be considered carefully. When everything calms down, I can use Lear's identity to visit the Queen before the Golden Church tries her. It was already late at night when they returned to the Stuart Mansion. Lear walked straight in. Eno and Milia were sitting in the living room, waiting anxiously. They sensed that something big was happening outside, but Lear had warned them not to leave the Stewart mansion under any circumstances. Seeing Lear appear, Milia threw herself directly into Lear's arms. The girl's eyes were red, and it looked like she had been crying for a while. What happened? Lear was a little at a loss. I was dreaming again. Milia lay in Lear's arms and said softly. Lear frowned. He felt that something was wrong with the queen. Was Milia dreaming again? Is it the dream from before? He asked softly, holding Milia and sitting on a chair beside him. Milia nodded, then shook her head. This time I dreamed that my mother took the initiative to be captured by the Golden Church. Why did my mother do this? Lear was a little surprised when he heard this. Milia had already dreamed about what had just happened. You've come back from outside. Do you know what happened? How is our mother now? Milia asked worriedly. It's nothing, it's just that the corrupt believers were discovered and have now been completely eliminated by the Golden Church. There's nothing wrong now. Lear replied. What about the Queen Mother? Have you seen her? Your Majesty, the Queen is fine and there is no danger. You can rest assured. Lear told a white lie. He still didn't know whether the Queen really wanted to commit suicide or if something had happened. Now it would be better not to tell Milia that the Queen had been captured by the Golden Church. He slapped his head and suddenly remembered the scepter the Queen had given him. By the way, Her Majesty the Queen also asked me to give you something. Lear took out the scepter given to him by the Queen from the storage ring. He had not yet looked at its attributes. The silver scepter looked particularly luxurious, and the huge gem on it also emitted a mysterious glow. Chapter 100 The Manipulated Queen, 3K, Name, Morning Star Scepter Category, Legal Relics Attributes, Spell Power plus 2000 Casting Speed plus 100% Mana Recovery Speed plus 100% Feature 1, Star Realm. You can see the scene within a radius of 10 kilometers through the gemstone mirror of the Morning Star Scepter at night. Feature 10. Star Resonance. When casting a spell with the Star Scepter, there is a 100% chance of triggering Star Resonance, which increases the power of the next spell by % and does not consume any. Magic Power. Special Skill 1, Morning Star Sealing Technique releases the power of the Morning Star Law, seals and invalidates all the target's law abilities, lasts for 1 hour. When there are multiple targets for sealing, the duration is halved for each additional target, and the cooldown time is 24 hours. Special Skill 2, Illusionary Star. Transform yourself into a star spirit body, enter the state of Illusionary Star within 30 seconds, and cannot be selected. You will exit the illusionary star state when attacking or releasing spells. Requirements: affinity with Qinqing Law 80%. Description: a relic of the law from the Law of the Cold Star, which can seal other laws and seems to contain other mysteries. Looking at the attributes of the scepter in his hand, Lear's eyes widened. It turned out to be a weapon of the law relic category. Generally speaking, the relics of law are all kinds of strange props, and the effects are also strange. Very few weapons and equipment are relics of the law, but once a relic of law that is a weapon or equipment appears, it must be extremely powerful. Lear remembered that in his previous life he had a law relic called the Sword of Blasphemy, whose powerful attributes and effects even surpassed many legendary equipment, the Morning Star Scepter. In front of him is also a weapon that is a relic of the law, and its effect is equally powerful. The spell strength was directly increased by 2000. You should know that the blood rose that Lear advanced to the holy weapon level only increased the attack strength by 400. With 4 powerful characteristics and special skills, Lear suddenly felt that his bloody rose was garbage. He was jealous, but this was a magic weapon and was bound by the laws of Qinqing. It was obviously prepared for Milia, the princess of Qinqing. My mother gave it to me? Milia blinked and looked at the mysterious staff that Lear took out. An extremely familiar feeling surged in her heart. Yes, this is a gift from the Queen, so don't worry, the Queen will be fine. Lear nodded and handed the scepter to Milia. Emilia took the scepter, and under the mysterious glow of the gem on the top of the scepter, the worries in her heart slowly calmed down. After calming Milia down, Lear picked up the girl and went back to his room, where they spent the whole night in silence. The next day, Albert found Lear. Where did you go yesterday? Albert looked at Lear with a frown. Such a big thing happened in the royal city yesterday, but he didn't even see the shadow of Lear. Lear shrugged. I heard that the high priest of Sylvia found the corrupt believers in the Lord's cemetery. When I saw that monster appear, I hid. That must be the god of law. I didn't expect that corrupt believers would be so crazy as to summon the god. He sighed. So you hid yourself? Albert's mouth twitched slightly. What else? Lear said as a matter of course, my dear father, although I am a reincarnated person, I am only a mid-level professional now. You don't expect me to fight with the gods, do you? Albert opened his mouth. What Lear said made sense. When he saw Lear fighting against the carrion giant in the slums before, he subconsciously thought that Lear would also help to eliminate the corrupt spirit. Now that I think about it, if a mid-level professional had come here yesterday, he would have been in great danger. Of all the nobles and professionals present yesterday, only a few mid-level professionals were lucky enough to survive, and most died. It can be said that the entire aristocratic class of the royal city was severely damaged. Oh. By the way, father, it seems that you have destroyed that god. It's incredible. Lear exclaimed. Albert shook his head. It's not us who are going to purge the corrupt spirits. Who is that? Lear asked puzzledly. It's the Apostle of Blood and Her Majesty the Queen, Albert replied. The Blood Apostle and the Queen? Lear pretended to be surprised. Yes. Albert nodded, and then his expression became a little gloomy. There is something I want to tell you. You know that the Queen and Milia are both believers in the law of the Morning Star. We were able to defeat the corrupted true spirit this time because the Queen exposed her own law of the stars. Now the Queen has been captured by the Golden Church. Albert's tone was a little low. He didn't quite understand why the Queen did this yesterday. There was obviously a better way. Even if he wore a black robe to cover it up, his identity would not be exposed. He could just leave and nothing would happen, but the Queen did not take any hiding measures. She directly exposed her power and surrendered to the Golden Church. The Queen has been caught? Lear pretended to be shocked. Yes, I came here today to tell you about this. The Queen has been arrested. Don't let Milia know about this. Albert warned. After a brief shock, Lear recovered, nodded, and then asked, how was Her Majesty caught? You may not believe it, but the Queen surrendered herself. Albert was silent for a moment, then said helplessly, a surrender? Yes, the Queen took the initiative to accept the trial of the Golden Church. Where is the Queen now? Asked Lear. In the prison of the Golden Church. Albert answered, looking at his son. What do you want to do? Why did the Queen surrender herself? Lear did not answer Albert's question, but asked back, I don't know either. Albert shook his head. Both father and son fell into a strange silence. After a long while, Lear saw that the silence was almost over, so he raised his head and asked, Father, can I go to the Golden Church to visit the Queen? If you want to go, go ahead, but if you want to rescue the Queen for Milia, I hope you can tell me before you act. Albert nodded. Father, you have no objection to me rescuing the Queen? Lear raised his eyebrows. Why should I object? Philia has been my friend for many years, and I have no connection with the Golden Church. Even if Philia is a heretic, as long as she is still the kind Philia I know, I will not watch her being executed by the Golden Church. Albert answered seriously. For the first time, he felt that the Golden Church was so extreme that any heretic would be purified. Even if Philia controlled the corrupt spirit and saved the royal city, they would not show the slightest mercy. Lear nodded silently after hearing this. A day passed in a flash. What happened in Lord's Cemetery is known to everyone, except Mira, who was imprisoned in Steward House. Lear specifically told no not to show Milia the latest newspaper. It has been reported in the newspapers that the Queen and the Blood Apostles eliminated the heretics, but the Queen and the Blood Apostles themselves are heretics. This caused an uproar and all kinds of comments arose. Some people praised the Blood Apostle and the Queen, while others believed that it was the Queen and the Blood Apostle who brought about the corrupt heresy. When Lear walked out of the house, the noble area was still in a mess, and there was blood on the ground in some places that had not been cleaned up. Many people died in the aristocratic district this time. Most of them were nobles, while the citizen district and the slums were not affected much. After experiencing two disasters in the slums and the urban areas, the entire royal city of Brayful seemed a little depressed. When Lear arrived at the Golden Cathedral, many golden cultists were coming and going. Lear walked straight in. The believers around him took a look but did not stop him. As soon as he entered the room, Lear saw Sylvia with a sad face. Your Excellency the High Priest. Lear walked forward and greeted. Sylvia looked up and saw that Lear had no reaction. Albert had already greeted her before, and Lear was going to see Queen Philia. After all, they had fought side by side in the battle against corrupted spirits, so Sylvia agreed to Albert's request. I don't know what you want to do, but I hope you don't have unrealistic fantasies, otherwise even the Stewart family can't protect you. Sylvia warned. Lear smiled but said nothing. The queen is in the innermost part of the prison. You only have 10 minutes. She turned to the golden cultist beside her and said, take him down. Lear nodded and followed the golden cultists. When Lear arrived at the deepest part of the prison, he saw Queen Philia. At this time, the queen still exuded a noble temperament. It seemed that Sylvia did not make things particularly difficult for the queen. Can I talk to the queen alone? Lear said to the golden cultist beside him. The golden cultist hesitated for a moment, then turned and walked away. The queen in the prison looked up, and when she saw Lear, she smiled bitterly. It seems that your majesty, the queen, doesn't want to stay in prison either. Lear looked at Philia. At this time, Philia no longer had the weird feeling she had in the Lord's cemetery before. She had become the queen. Lear knew. Lear shook his head helplessly. Your Highness, I have already reminded you before. Why did you still show up and take the initiative to expose your power and even let yourself be captured by the Golden Church? Listening to Lear's words, the queen showed an embarrassed expression. I don't know either. I didn't intend to interfere in the affairs of corrupt believers, but I received an oracle from the Morning Star Scepter. Oracle? Lear frowned. Yes, the gods told me that if I want Milia to awaken, I must make a sacrifice. As long as I die, Milia's Morning Star law will awaken in extreme grief. The oracle foretells that I will be captured by the Golden Church, and after being judged, Milia will awaken. I don't know whether I should believe this oracle. When I saw the scene of the Lord's cemetery in the mirror of the Morning Star Scepter, I originally planned to hide my identity and help you, but then I lost consciousness. Lost consciousness? Yes, I didn't know what happened. When I woke up, I was thrown into prison. The queen sighed. End of this chapter. Chapter 101, The Girl Sealed in the Star Scepter. Your Highness, do you mean that you are completely unaware of your behavior in the Lord's tomb? Lear said in a deep voice. It was exactly what he felt. He felt that something was wrong with the queen at that time. The queen is not a fool. The act of surrendering to the Golden Church is too bizarre no matter how you look at it, and that oracle, is it from the god of the law of Morning Star? It is not impossible to let the queen sacrifice herself in order to stimulate Milia's awakening. Lear felt more and more confused. These gods of heretical laws seemed unreliable. He pondered and suddenly thought of a question. Your Majesty, you said you got the oracle from the Morning Star Scepter? Yes, is there any problem? The Morning Star Scepter is a relic of the law passed down from the Morning Star Law and originally belonged to Morning Star. Queen Philia blinked. Big problem. Lear's face changed. At that time, the controlled queen clearly said that she would give the Morning Star Scepter to Milia. What was controlling the queen, and why did she give the Morning Star Scepter to Milia? If it was the god of the law of the Morning Star who bestowed his relics on Milia, then that would certainly be a good thing. But what if the one who controlled the queen was not the god of the law of the Morning Star at all? Your Highness, since you did not surrender voluntarily, I will find a way to rescue you, but you will have to wait for a while. Lear took a deep breath. He just wanted to go back and see how Milia was doing. I have something else to do and I have to leave, he said finally, and without waiting for the queen's response, he quickly left the prison. Looking at Lear's hurriedly leaving back, Queen Philia felt a little puzzled. At Steward Mansion, Milia was sleeping on her bed, taking a nap. She spent most of her time at Steward House resting. After all, she couldn't go out and there was nothing to play in the house. In the bedroom, the Morning Star Scepter was placed on the bedside. Suddenly, the gem on the top of the scepter emitted a dark light. An illusory figure appeared in the room, looking almost exactly like Milia, except that he had long black hair and black eyes. She looked quietly at Milia sleeping in the bed. With a strange emotion in her eyes, she floated to Milia's side and said in a soft voice, My dear sister, you never thought that I would survive. I spent endless silence in a dark cage, while you became a godman. It's really unfair. As she spoke, she seemed to be thinking of some unpleasant past events. The bedroom was silent, and only the girl's murmurs could be heard. Milia was still asleep, breathing steadily. The girl in the air stared at Milia for a long time. All the stars shine on you, and I can only be your shadow. But, I won't always be your shadow. She said one last word. The Morning Star Scepter on the side suddenly emitted a black light, like the darkness on the back of a star. The girl came to Milia and slowly stretched out her hands. Just as she was about to attack Milia, hurried footsteps were suddenly heard outside the house. The girl immediately stopped what she was doing and frowned. The footsteps outside the door were getting closer and closer. Listening to the sound, She gritted her teeth and finally got back into the Morningstar Scepter. Just as the girl returned to the Morningstar Scepter, the bedroom door was suddenly pushed open. Milia! Lear went straight into the bedroom. The loud noise woke Milia up from her sleep. The girl opened her eyes dazedly and looked at Lear with a blank face. What's wrong? Milia asked with her head tilted. Lear looked at Miria, and then looked at the Morningstar Scepter placed on the bedside. Milia, nothing happened to you, right? Lear walked to Milia and sat directly on the bed. Me? Milia was stunned for a moment. I'm fine, what's wrong with me? The girl was confused. Lear smiled awkwardly. Was he too sensitive? He shook his head and picked up the Morningstar Scepter beside him. As soon as he touched it, he felt a cool touch. He looked at the scepter in his hand, and the information of the Chinching scepter appeared in front of him again. His eyes fell on the last item description. It seems to contain other mysteries. Can you leave the Morningstar Scepter with me temporarily? I want to study it. Lear said immediately. He always felt that there was a secret on the Morningstar Scepter. Take it if you want it. I can't use it anyway. Milia nodded nonchalantly. She just felt that the scepter had a familiar feel to it, but other than that she could only treat it as an ornamental piece. If Lear taking it can help Lear, so much the better. Then I'll take it and study it. Lear smiled and picked up the Morningstar Scepter. Directly holding the Morningstar Scepter, Lear came to the study and carefully looked at the gem on the scepter. Apart from looking very luxurious, he couldn't see anything wrong with it. Could it be that I really think too much? Lear sighed and could only put the scepter into his storage ring. Let's put it aside for now. The most important thing now is the Queen's matter. When it was evening, Albert came to Stuart Mansion again. I heard that you went to meet Philia. Did you gain anything? Albert asked straight to the point. The Queen did not expose herself voluntarily. Lear did not hide anything and told the whole story. You mean the Queen is controlled by the gods? Albert's eyes widened. He could never have imagined this would be the result. Maybe, but it doesn't matter anymore. What matters is that the Queen was forced to voluntarily accept the trial of the Golden Church. I plan to rescue the Queen. What do you think, Father? Lear asked. I can support you. What are your plans? Albert nodded and asked. Lear fell into deep thought. After thinking about it, he suddenly thought of the three players including Li Huanhuan. Anyway, the players are not afraid of death, and now the internal beta test may only last a few days, so it is a good opportunity for these players to make use of their remaining energy. I need to think about it, Father. Lear pretended to think. You'd better hurry up. The Golden Church is already preparing to put Philia on trial. Albert shook his head. If all else fails, we can only take Philia away by force. Robbed? Lear suddenly felt that his father was a little too bold. He suddenly thought of a question. What is the attitude of His Majesty the King now? Rosser? Albert's tone suddenly became a little sarcastic. He dare not violate the golden law. Even if Philia is willing to sacrifice his life for him, it is not as important as the golden law. He remembered that Lear had asked him what would happen to Rose if the Queen was discovered. He just felt that his trust in Rosser was so ridiculous. End of this chapter. Chapter 102 Players Make Trouble in the Golden Cathedral, Part 3, Time Does Change a Person. Albert's eyes became deep. After the Queen volunteered to be arrested, he went to find Rosser and wanted to know Rosser's attitude. As long as Rosser is willing, the entire Stuart family can face war again. Even if it is the Golden Church, they are never afraid, but Rosser refused, saying he could not betray his faith in gold. Between family and faith, Rosser chose the latter. Brayfield was once a believer in war, but after converting to gold, he became a coward. People can have faith, but they cannot just have faith. Late at night, after Albert left, Lear transformed into the appearance of the Blood Apostle again. Following the blood marks on Li Huanhuan and others, he came to a wasteland. Li Huanhuan and the other two did not log off late at night, but continued exploring the royal city. Ever since they experienced the underground cemetery of the Lord's tomb, they always wondered if there were some secrets beneath these ancient buildings, and they began to become keen on digging up people's ancestral graves at night. It's no wonder that they actually reaped quite a lot, discovering a lot of coins and some tombs. Come quickly. Look what I found. Li Huanhuan suddenly said excitedly. She was standing at the bottom of a pit, next to an open coffin. Yao Yao and Dahe on the other side heard the sound, put down the hose and shovels in their hands, and ran over quickly. Li Huanhuan was holding a pin with some dirt on it and a long-tailed cat decoration on it. Name, long-tailed cat pin category, legal relics introduction. This brooch is made in the image of the long-tailed cat Legima, which is said to be a fairy cat that appears in fairy tales and plays on the big clock tower effect. Wearing the pin will protect you from being hurt when falling from a height. Relics of the law. Yao Yao and Dahe both widened their eyes. I've seen this kind of law relics on the forum. They are very rare items, but their effects are also varied. Yao Yao recalled the information she had seen on the forum. Li Huanhuan was secretly delighted. Does this count as finding a treasure? Judging from its rarity, it should be, but the effect, Dahe nodded, then shook his head. The effect of this relic of law is a bit too weird. It provides immunity to damage from falling from a height. Is it intended to prevent people from jumping off a building and dying? All he could think of was that it would be useful in some critical moment where one had no choice but to jump off a building. It's fine as long as it's rare. Li Huanhuan didn't care at all. She looked at the fairy cat on the pin whose tail was so long that it wrapped around its body. The more she looked at it, the cuter it found it. Dahe curled his lips, still a little jealous. Rare things like the law relics, even if they didn't have much effect, must have a plot and story behind them, which was exactly what a plot-conscious person like him needed. He turned around and encouraged himself. Since Li Huanhuan could dig up the treasure, why couldn't he? So he planned to continue digging the grave, but a voice broke the silence of the night. Digging people's graves late at night is not a good hobby. The sound was full of weirdness, and the three of them were startled. Li Huanhuan shuddered and almost threw away the long-tailed cat pin in her hand. Who? Dahe turned around quickly. In the darkness ahead, there was a pair of scarlet eyes, and the blood apostle slowly walked out of the darkness. Li Huanhuan and the other two were stunned when they saw the appearance of the person who came. They were silent for several seconds. Li Huanhuan rushed to the side of the blood apostle. Mr. Munger, why did you come to see me just now? Li Huanhuan's face was full of resentment. Lear was stunned for a moment. Are we familiar with each other? Do you know how hard it has been for me to wait for you? Ever since you awakened my law of blood last time, I have wanted all the time to become a believer of blood and do my part to promote the law of blood. Li Huanhuan chattered on and on. Dahe was shocked by Li Huanhuan's words. How could he be so shameless? Where is your Valkyrie dignity? Although the blood apostle's power has been deeply rooted in people's hearts after the events in the slums and the Lord's cemetery, but, Lord Blood Apostle, Li Huanhuan and I are good friends. After witnessing your powerful strength, I am also deeply attracted by the power of the blood law. I hope you can let me become an apostle of blood. Dahe also stepped forward and said devoutly. Lier was somewhat amused by the way Li Huanhuan and Dahe sang the same tune, but this was also in line with the style of the player in his previous life. He coughed lightly and said, I am very happy that you can recognize the power of the blood law. If you are willing to join the blood cult, I welcome you. But I still have to say that if you join the blood cult, the Golden Church will regard you as heretics. Are you really ready? The blood apostle's tone turned serious. I'm ready. Li Huanhuan nodded immediately. Me too. I've long been annoyed with the Golden Church. They claim to be holy, but they do hypocritical things. Dahe also expressed his loyalty. Lier looked at the exaggerated appearance of the two people, but didn't care. He just nodded. In that case, I welcome you to join the blood cult. You have joined the heretical sect, the blood cult. Your current reputation is friendly. Your reputation in the Golden Church is forced to become hostile. The moment Lier finished speaking, Li Huanhuan and Dahe got the hint. The two of them looked delighted, except Yao Yao, who had a complicated expression, as she still wanted to follow Lier. The blood apostle nodded. Since the players have already joined the blood cult, it is time to change their jobs and let them go to work after the job change. Since you have joined the blood cult, I will grant you the power of blood. But before that, I need you to do something for me. Lord Blood Apostle, no matter what it is, just give us your orders. Since we have become believers of blood, we are prepared to die for blood. Dahe immediately said in a righteous and loud voice. Li Huanhuan and Yao Yao, who were standing by, felt it was shameless. I am very pleased that you have such awareness. I really need you to die for me. The blood apostle chuckled. Dahe was stunned. He was just talking nonsense. Do you really want me to die? I have been observing you these days and have seen that you have the power to come back to life from the dead. You are very special. I observed for a long time before I confirmed that this power of resurrection did not come from other law gods, but from you yourselves. Lear revealed the player's secret. The three of them were a little shocked. The NPCs in this game were too smart. Previously, Lear knew the player's situation through the oracle, and now the Blood Apostle also knew it. Lear ignored the player's shock and said, "You should have heard about the Queen. She is also a believer in the heretical law. She saved the royal city, but was captured by the Golden Church. As a fellow heretic, I feel very sad. The Queen is clearly a hero who saved the royal city, but she is being tried and executed because of the Golden Church. I plan to rescue the Queen, and I hope you can cooperate with me. You have triggered the mission, assist the Blood Apostle Munger to rescue the Queen. D-level, the Queen saved the royal city, but was captured by the Golden Church because of her heresy. The Blood Apostle Munger denounced the hypocrisy of the Golden Church and planned to rescue the Queen. Mission objective, assist the Blood Apostle Munger's actions. Quest reward, 10,000 experience points, job transfer to Bloodlaw class Bloodhunter/Blood Knight. The job transfer task has arrived, and Li Huanhuan and Dahe's eyes light up. Players are never afraid of difficult tasks, they can do anything as long as they are rewarded. While secretly editing the task, Lear looked at the excited Li Huanhuan and Dahe, and a sly smile appeared on his face under the bloody mask. Since players are not afraid of death, they should make good use of this feature. The next day, in front of the Golden Cathedral, the arrest of the Queen has caused a lot of controversy. But the Golden Church still has not announced how to deal with the heretic Queen. So every day there are many reporters from newspapers waiting here, waiting for first-hand news. While a group of reporters were watching boredly, two figures appeared at the gate of the Golden Church. They were Li Huanhuan and Dahe. Li Huanhuan and Dahe were carrying two large buckets of feces, with a look of resistance on their faces. The reporters around looked at the two men curiously, and were immediately surprised when they saw the manure they were carrying. Do we really have to do this? Li Huanhuan said in a dilemma. What are you afraid of? We can be resurrected. Besides, don't you want to switch to the profession of blood law? Dahe answered while enduring the foul smell. Li Huanhuan took a deep breath. She tried her best to change her job. The two men stood at the door of the Golden Cathedral and waited for the door to open. The Golden Church members inside came out. The two men seized the opportunity, scooped up a spoonful of manure with a dung shovel, and threw it at the members. The believers who had just walked out were drenched in feces before they could react. Who am I? Where am I? Why is there poop? The golden cultists who went out were all crazy, and among them stood the golden Bishop Gas. The reporters around also went crazy and took pictures of the scene crazily. Hypocritical Golden Church. On what basis do you want to arrest Her Majesty the Queen? Her Majesty the Queen has clearly saved the entire royal city. You are actually trying to judge Her Majesty the Queen? Dahe and Li Huanhuan sang in unison, throwing feces and shouting at the same time. The reporters nearby keenly heard the secret in their words. One reporter ignored the stench and moved closer. Madam, what do you think about Her Majesty the Queen saving the entire royal city? When these words were spoken, the reporters pricked up their ears. They only knew that the Queen and the Blood Apostles had eliminated the corrupt believers, but they did not know the specific circumstances. The secrets are only known to those who participated in the battle and survived. They also interviewed those survivors, but everyone kept silent. There is a secret here. End of this chapter. Chapter 103 Players Make Trouble in the Golden Cathedral, Part 3. Li Huanhuan listened to the words of the reporters around her and her heart was once again filled with disgust towards the Golden Church. She also learned about the Queen from the Blood Apostle. Although she and Dahe witnessed the whole process, they were too far away to hear the conversation and did not know some of the details. At first she thought that it was only the Queen and the Blood Apostle who defeated the corrupt monster, but in fact, without the Queen, the entire royal city would be destroyed. The Golden Church concealed the truth. At that time, the corrupt true spirit was planning to self-destruct and completely release the law of corruption. At that time, the entire royal city would have turned into hell. It was the Queen who stood up and used the power of the law of Morningstar to seal the law of corruption. The Queen is the hero who saved the entire royal city. Li Huanhuan spoke out the truth loudly. and the reporters around her became excited. This is big news. No wonder the Golden Church has been slow to announce the trial of the Queen, so this is the reason. However, after a brief excitement, these reporters became embarrassed. This involved the affairs of the Golden Church. If they reported it casually, it might lead to the liquidation of the Golden Church. Some reporters wrote and underlined in their notebooks, while others had flickering eyes. Some citizens living near the Golden Cathedral also gathered around, and when they heard Li Huanhuan's words, they were all shocked. I in the shadows not far away, Lier looked at the indecisive reporters and the onlookers, and a smile appeared on his face. When these reporters go back, there will always be those who are not afraid of death who will report what happened today, and the onlookers will also spread the news. Albert said that the Golden Church intends to try the Queen, so let everyone know the truth, using public opinion to coerce the Golden Church. Is it a tough trial of the Queen regardless of public opinion, or a compromise? In the crowd, Bishop Gas stood there in a daze, holding the notice he had just received. The Queen would be tried in the afternoon, but now, it was the Queen who saved us? Is this true? Isn't the Queen a heretic? You idiot! So what if you're a heretic? The blood apostle saved me twice. The crowd began to talk, and the noise attracted attention from inside the Golden Cathedral. Maury walked out of the Golden Cathedral in confusion, and smelled a foul odor straight away, and also felt something warm splashed on his face. He touched his cheek and looked down to see a streak of shit yellow color. He was stunned for a moment, and after a few seconds, when he realized what was on his face turned red and he bent down and vomited. After vomiting, he raised his head angrily and saw two people who were constantly throwing feces at the Golden Church. When he saw Li Huanhuan, his eyes widened. "It's you!" Maury roared. "You damn heretic, how dare you come to me?" Maury recognized Li Huanhuan. Wasn't she the immortal heretic from before? He got mixed up with the blood apostle, and in the end he was stripped naked and dropped on a street lamp. Li Huanhuan also saw Maury and was shocked. She almost forgot that she had a grudge against the Golden Church. She glanced at Maury, who was rushing towards her angrily, and smelled the foul smell on his body. She had dug it out of the pit with her own hands early in the morning, and it was still warm. She didn't want to touch such a disgusting thing, and Maury was probably trying to catch her. Li Huanhuan immediately raised the dung bucket and threw it directly at Maury, then pulled it out and stabbed it into his own heart. Before she died, she shouted, "If the Queen must be judged, I am willing to follow her to death." This shout shocked everyone. Why did he commit suicide? Was he indignant about what happened to the Queen and so expressed his dissatisfaction with the Golden Church by committing suicide? This is too extreme. However, this scene also made the eyes of the reporters around red. Fuck the Golden Church. If you don't report this news, are you still a journalist? Dahe, who was standing by, was stunned by the scene. Isn't there such a setting in the plot? Maury looked at Li Huanhuan and was so angry that he was fuming. He knew that the other party could be resurrected, so he committed suicide so decisively. What a damn heretic, humiliating him time and time again. He looked at Dahe on the other side. Catch this heretic! Maury roared. The two of them who came together must be accomplices. Dahe reacted, picked up the dung bucket and smashed it at the golden cultists around him. The foul-smelling substance flew everywhere, and the golden cultists all avoided it. Dahe said with disdain, "Do you think you can kill me? Hypocritical Golden Church! Even if you kill me, I will definitely come back from hell. Don't kill him." Before Daher could finish his words, Maury interrupted him with angrily. "He is in the same group as the woman just now. They are both heretics who can be resurrected from the dead. Catch him. I want him alive. I will torture you severely," Maury said with a distorted expression. Dahe was dumbfounded. How did this NPC know that he could be resurrected? And why did he want to capture him again? Dahe didn't understand, and by the time he reacted, the golden cultists had already surrounded him. Dahe was startled and was about to draw his sword to strike himself, but the sword in his hand was knocked away. "You think I'll give you a chance to commit suicide?" Maury walked up with a ferocious expression. "You damn heretics, you have repeatedly challenged the golden law. I will let you know what cruelty is." The golden cultists around rushed forward and tied up Dahe directly. The foul-smelling thing also got on Dahe's body. Damn, how could this happen? Dahe's cheeks turned red as he thought of Li Huanhuan, who had just committed suicide. I was tricked. This damn woman knew there was something wrong with this NPC, but she didn't tell him. He wanted to curse, but as soon as he opened his mouth, the foul smell made him retch. What happened? A cold voice came from not far away. The commotion in front of the Golden Cathedral finally caught Sylvia's attention. She walked out and saw the mess on the ground, and her expression became gloomy. The sacred Golden Cathedral is actually covered with such filth. Who dares to challenge the Golden Church like this? When Mori saw Sylvia appear, he immediately showed a respectful expression. High Priest Sylvia, it's like this. He walked towards Sylvia, but before he took a few steps, a ray of holy light knocked him back. You don't have to come over. Sylvia looked at the filthy Mori with some disdain, waved his hand, and then looked at the golden Bishop Gas beside him. Gas, you tell me. Mori took several steps back and almost slipped on the slippery and dirty stuff on the ground. Bishop Gas at the side could not bear to watch, and then explained to Sylvia, it is like this, Your Excellency the High Priest. 2 minutes later the bishop told what had happened. You mean someone told others about the Queen? Sylvia frowned. Yes. Bishop Gas nodded. Sylvia took a deep breath. This was going to be troublesome. After the Queen surrendered, you are proposed to conceal her contribution. Considering her pagan status, Sylvia understood that if what the Queen had done was exposed, she would definitely be praised and supported in the royal city, but the Queen was a heretic. Would the Golden Church go against the will of the people of the royal city and judge a hero? So she condoned worse behavior, but now the Queen's affairs have been exposed. Who did it? Sylvia bit her lip. Knowing the truth, only those who had participated in the elimination of corrupt true spirits would know. Your Excellency the High Priest, what should we do now? Should we post the notice? Bishop Gas asked carefully. Wait a moment. Sylvia sighed helplessly, and she looked at the tied-up Dahe on the other side. Is this the news you spread? She asked. Dahe glared at him and said, It's me. Hypocritical Golden Church, don't try to hide the truth. Who sent you here? Sylvia asked, ignoring Dahe's trash talk. You don't know. There will always be righteous people who will expose the evil of the Golden Sea. Dahe still shouted in a pretentious manner. The onlookers around became much quieter when Sylvia appeared, but they didn't leave. Sylvia became annoyed. Things always went beyond her expectations. Take him away and lock him up for interrogation. Then she looked at the crowd outside and said, Let the people outside disperse, and clean up all these things on the ground. Sylvia gave the order, and at that moment, a deep voice sounded, I really can't stand it. Has the Golden Church become so corrupt now? On the roof, a figure appeared there at some point, and no one even noticed it. That person, wearing a luxurious robe, had a ferocious face and a bright red light flashing in his eyes. It was Lear, who was posing as the Apostle of Blood. The appearance of the Blood Apostle immediately caused a commotion. Some people in the crowd showed horror, while others even prostrated themselves on the ground like devout believers. The reporters at the scene were even more crazy. What good day is today? Big news came one after another, and there was no way to record them all. Blood Apostle, is that you? Sylvia seemed to understand who arranged everything today, but why? Although the Blood Apostle and the Queen are both heretics, the laws they believe in are completely different. Why does the Blood Apostle do this? The Queen and I fought side by side and tried our best to defeat the true spirit of corrupt laws, but you, the Golden Church, are planning to put the Queen on trial? There was a hint of anger in the Blood Apostle's voice. We are heretics, but heresy does not mean evil. If the Queen had not sealed the corrupt law spirit, the entire royal city would have fallen. Do you want to judge a hero? End of this chapter. Chapter 104 Your daughter is in my hands. 3K. The Blood Apostle's voice traveled far and wide, and was so powerful that everyone at the scene could hear it. Compared to the two unknown people, Dahe and Li Huanhuan, the name of the Blood Apostle is known to everyone. Even among the crowd there were many believers of the Blood Apostles. The crowd started to make noise again, and under the bloody face, a smile appeared on Lear's face. Letting Li Huanhuan and Dahe tell the story of the Queen was just to stimulate discussion, and finally the Blood Apostle would tell it. Even if the Golden Church wanted to deny it, the truth had already been imprinted in everyone's heart. What exactly do you want to do? Sylvia took a deep breath. Hand over the Queen, said the Blood Apostle in a deep voice. Impossible. Sylvia refused immediately. The Golden Church tried heretics. This was a matter of faith and had nothing to do with anything else, really? The Blood Apostle laughed and suddenly said, Then let's make a deal. Deal? Sylvia was stunned. The blood apostle didn't say anything more and directly took out a scepter from under his robe. This is a completely white scepter with golden patterns, exuding a sacred aura. When Sylvia saw the scepter in Lear's hand, she was stunned. She stared at the scepter. It was the scepter she gave to her daughter personally, and it was also the weapon she used when she was a saint, the Holy Spirit scepter, a weapon of extraordinary level. You should know what this is, right? The blood apostle murmured softly. It was you who kidnapped Ophanina. Sylvia became a little agitated, and the other golden cultists beside him were also stunned. The long-lost saint was actually kidnapped by the blood apostles. It seems that you recognize this scepter. The blood apostle said calmly. You are right, this is what I got from Ophelia. I took off this scepter because I want to tell you that your daughter is in my hands, so let's make a deal. How about you hand over the queen to me and I'll return your daughter to you? When these words were spoken, everyone was stunned. The blood apostle actually made such a request, exchanged the queen for the saint. The scene became somewhat quiet, and Lear quietly waited for Sylvia to make a choice. If Sylvia agrees to exchange the queen for the saint, then he can rescue the queen. As for whether he will really return Ophanina to the other party after rescuing the queen, that is of course impossible. Ophanina knew his secret. Unless one day he took the initiative to expose the relationship between Lear and the blood apostle, Ophanina would be imprisoned at home forever. So this deal is just a scam. But then again, Lear doesn't care whether Sylvia agrees to the deal or not. He asked Li Huanhuan and Dahe to cause trouble in the Golden Cathedral today just to delay the time of the Golden Church's trial of the Queen, so that he would have enough time to prepare to rescue the Queen from prison. If the Queen's trial came too soon, I'm afraid his cheap father would really be so bold as to rob the execution ground. According to the original plot of the game, Albert was liquidated by the Golden Church in order to protect him who communicated with the blood law. And finally the entire Stewart family was destroyed. This means that although the Stewart family is powerful, it still cannot compete with the Golden Church. If Albert really impulsively rescued the Queen, then the original plot of the game would probably be repeated. It's just that the object of protection changed from him to the Queen. Lear would not let this happen, so he had to delay time so that Albert would not act impulsively. If possible, Lear even planned to rescue the Queen without letting Albert intervene, which would completely avoid the possibility of the Stewart family being liquidated by the Golden Sea. He already had a plan in mind. Now it just took a little time. I don't have time for you to think about it for so long. Seeing that Sylvia remained silent, Lear continued to put pressure on the other party. I'll only give you 3 days. If you want, you can publish the news in the newspaper. We will do the transaction in the Lord's cemetery. If you refuse, if the Queen dies, your daughter will not survive. The blood apostle uttered his last threat, and then his body turned into a cloud of blood and disappeared. Sylvia looked at the disappearing blood apostle. She still didn't speak. On one side is the Golden Faith, and on the other side is her own daughter. She has never felt such pain before. A great goddess of the Golden Law, didn't you say that Ophanina's life was not in danger? The other golden cultists were all confused. The situation was a bit complicated, but now that the blood apostle had left, they were relieved. However, there was still one person who was in despair. Dahe looked at the place where the blood apostle disappeared. No, I haven't been saved yet. Am I not a believer in blood? Why don't you save me before you leave? If you really can't, you can just stab me to death with a sword. In just 30 days of the internal beta test, he has been arrested for the second time. Does he have to spend the rest of the internal beta test in jail? Just when Dahe looked like he had lost all hope in life, a deep voice sounded in his heart. You stay in the prison of the Golden Church and find out the news about the Queen. I know that you and your companions can communicate over long distances. If there is any situation, please inform her and tell me. It is the voice of the blood apostle. Dahe was stunned for a moment. How could the other party convey messages in his mind? And how did the blood apostle know that he and Li Huanhuan could convey messages remotely? He felt more and more that the NPCs in this game were somewhat mysterious. The farce in the Golden Cathedral soon spread throughout the royal city, and the matter concerning the Queen also became a hot topic. Queen Philia has always had a positive image in the royal city. She often goes out to care for the citizens, so after learning that the Queen is a heretic, many people in the royal city still have goodwill towards the Queen. Now that what happened in the Lord's cemetery was completely exposed to everyone, the discussion about the Queen became more complicated. At Stewart Mansion, Lear was very satisfied with the farce he had just caused in the Golden Cathedral. It all depends on Sylvia's choice. If the other party agrees to the deal, that would naturally be a good thing. If the other party does not agree, Lear must also be prepared to forcibly take the queen away from prison. He needs to figure out the layout of the prison where the queen is imprisoned in the next few days to avoid any mistakes. Lear had not thought too much about the situation in the prison when he visited the queen before. We also need to be prepared for the possibility that Sylvia agrees to the deal, but is just pretending to agree like him. In short, you must be cautious. In the afternoon, just when Lear was about to visit the queen again in the name of Stuart, someone from the Golden Sea came on his own initiative. It was the Golden Bishop Gas. At this time, the filth on the Golden Bishop's body had been washed away, but Lear could still smell some faint stench. Your Excellency the Bishop, what do you want to talk to me about? Lear moved a little further away from the Golden Bishop without leaving a trace. Lear's little action did not escape the eyes of Bishop Gas. The corner of Bishop Gas's mouth twitched slightly, but he was not angry. Thinking of the scene of being splashed with feces in the morning, he felt disgusted. He has washed it 3 or 4 times, but can still smell that faint smell. What a damn heretic! High Priest Sylvia asked me to come. He took a deep breath and said, High Priest Sylvia? Lear was stunned. Sylvia didn't consider Ophanina's affairs at this time, so how could he have time to let Gas come to find him? That's right, Master Lear. Bishop Gas took out a badge from his arms. Because of your previous inference, we found the trace of the corrupt believers. The Golden Church promised to reward those who found the trace of the corrupt believers. This is the honorary badge of our Golden Church. With this badge, you can freely enter and exit the Golden Cathedrals in various places. At the same time, you can also use the badge to go to the Golden Church headquarters in the Rhodes Empire and obtain the qualification to meet His Holiness the Pope. You have completed the first objective of the mission, Traces of Corrupted Believers and Saints. You gain 30 experience points, Golden Law Affinity plus 10%, Golden Tree Emblem. Your Golden Law Affinity reaches 30%, you gain Strength plus 2, Constitution plus 2, Dexterity plus 2, Intelligence plus 2, Mysticism plus 2. Looking at the system panel that popped up in front of him, Lear was stunned for a moment, and it took him a few seconds to react. He almost forgot about this mission, the Golden Rule Affinity that was previously deducted by the Golden Rule Goddess has returned. Silently turning off the panel, Lear took the Golden Tree Emblem from Bishop Gas. Carved on it is the typical golden tree symbol of the Golden Church. It was like a pillow falling asleep. He had originally planned to visit the Queen in the name of Stuart. With this, wouldn't he be able to enter and exit the Golden Cathedral at will? But I still have to stay away from Sylvia and UR. It would be suspicious if we were seen. As for the qualification to meet the Pope mentioned on the Golden Tree Emblem, Lear didn't care much about it. With his identity, going to the headquarters of the Golden Church to meet the Pope would probably be like throwing a meat bun at a dog, and there would be no return. Please express my gratitude to High Priest Sylvia on my behalf. Lear put away the Golden Tree Emblem with a smile and smiled at Bishop Gas. I will. Bishop Gas nodded. By the way, I heard that something big happened in the Golden Cathedral this morning? Lear suddenly asked. The smile on Bishop Gas's face froze for a moment. He was really talking about something irrelevant. He said a little uncomfortably, yes, the Blood Apostle appeared in the Golden Cathedral and said that he was the one who kidnapped Her Highness the Saint. Oh? The Blood Apostle kidnapped the Saint? Lear asked in surprise. Yes, Archpriest Sylvia is very distressed now. I'm afraid the Golden Church will not be stable in the near future. Gas nodded and answered helplessly. End of this chapter. Chapter 105 Milia Awakens? 3K, the Blood Apostle proposed to exchange the Saint for the Queen. I don't know what choice High Priest Sylvia will make. Bishop Gas added to himself. Is the Queen still in prison? Asked Lear. Yes, Master Lear. Gas nodded, and then suddenly said as if he had thought of something, by the way, since the Blood Apostle has admitted that he kidnapped Her Highness the Saint, perhaps Her Highness the Princess is also in the hands of the Blood Apostle. If High Priest Sylvia is willing to exchange the Queen for the Saint, perhaps he can also find out the whereabouts of Her Royal Highness the Princess. Bishop Gas made a reasonable guess. Lear was stunned for a moment and his expression became a little strange. Master Lear, you can wait. I have already given you the things and it is time for me to go back to the church. After Bishop Gas said this, he said goodbye to Lear and left. Looking at Gas's leaving back, Lear shook his head. He turned around and walked towards the study. As soon as he walked out of the living room, he saw Milia coming out from the corner. The girl looked at Lear with a hint of grievance and confusion in her eyes. Lear was stunned. Milia usually stayed in the bedroom at this time. Why did she come here? His heart skipped a beat for no reason, wondering if Milia had heard his conversation with Bishop Gas just now. My mother was captured by the Golden Church? As soon as Milia opened her mouth, Lear's heart sank. He was silent for a long time, then smiled helplessly and said, "Did you hear everything?" Milia bit her lip. After hearing Lear's answer, she became even angrier. "Why did you hide it from me? You knew I dreamt that my mother was arrested." Milia. Lear stretched out his hand, wanting to hold Milia in his arms. Milia took a step back and avoided Lear. "You haven't told me why you hid it from me." Lear's outstretched hand stopped in the air. He could see that Milia was really angry, but this was normal. After all, her mother was captured by the Golden Church. According to the original plot development, the Queen would be tried by the Golden Church. "I just don't want you to worry," Lear explained. "Don't let me worry? You're lying to me like this? Last time you said that Mother is not in danger. Are you going to keep it a secret from me until Mother is tried?" Milia shouted with tears in her eyes. Just when the girl's emotions were getting a little out of control, Lear reached out and hugged Milia forcefully in his arms. "Okay," he said, a hint of severity in his tone. "Why do you think so?" Lear held up Milia's head and looked at her. "You are my fiancée. Although there was a gap between us at the beginning, you and I have been together for a while. Do you think I will keep it a secret from you until Her Majesty the Queen is tried? I love you and truly regard you as my wife. The Queen is your mother and my mother as well. How could I watch the Queen being judged?" Lear's voice was sonorous and powerful. Milia stared at Lear blankly, and the irritability in her heart gradually subsided. "I'm already preparing a plan to rescue the Queen. I didn't tell you just to avoid making you worry." Looking at the calm girl, Lear's tone softened. Feeling the warmth of Lear's body, Milia's mood slowly calmed down. She bit her lip and said with some self-blame, "I'm sorry. I'm just scared. Those dreams have become reality. I'm afraid that my mother will really. I promise you that I will bring Her Majesty the Queen back safe and sound." Lear said firmly. Milia looked at Lear's serious expression, her cheeks slightly reddened. She tiptoed carefully and kissed Lear on the lips. "Thank you. That's what I should do." Lear smiled. Milia also smiled and rubbed against Lear's arms. After a few seconds, a trace of disappointment suddenly flashed in her eyes. "Do you think I'm useless?" Lear frowned, not understanding what Milia meant. "My mother said that I was chosen by the laws of Qinqing and cannot be discovered by the Golden Church. I can only hide here with you, but I have no ability at all. I need you to protect me. Even if my mother is caught, there is nothing I can do." Milia continued to say that she was really disappointed. She hoped that she could have power instead of just staying by Lear's side and being a vase. The Queen Mother said that she would have power once her Law of the Morning Star awakened, but how long would she have to wait? Lear listened to Milia's words. He understood her distress. In the game plot, after Milia awakens, she will become very powerful, there is no doubt about that. He wanted to comfort Milia, but at this moment, his storage ring emitted a faint blue light. The Morningstar scepter appeared out of thin air in the room, and slowly floated in front of Milia. Milia was stunned for a moment, looking at the Morningstar scepter in front of her, and the same familiarity as before surged into her heart. She reached out and touched the gem on the Morningstar scepter, and Milia's shadow appeared in the gem's mirror. But her pupils were black and her hair was also black. The figure disappeared in a flash, and then Milia felt that she had a deeper connection with the Morningstar scepter. "Milia." Lear looked at this scene and felt a little nervous. He still remembered that the Queen received the oracle from this scepter and then lost consciousness. "Lear, I seem to be able to use the power of this scepter." Milia was stunned for a few seconds, feeling the information in her mind, and suddenly said in surprise. She held the Morningstar scepter, and the star's light gradually shone, and then sank into Lear's body. "You are blessed by the skill illusionary stars and enter an unselectable state for 30 seconds. The system prompt appeared in Lear's eyes, and Lear became illusory, with a layer of faint starlight covering him. Illusionary stars. This is the special skill that comes with the Morningstar scepter that Lear has seen, a very powerful skill. He looked at Milia in some disbelief. He did not sense any breath of law from her, but Milia activated the power of the Morningstar scepter just like that. Looking at the radiance on Lear's body, Milia was very excited. "Lear, I can also use the power of the law of the morning star. Well, congratulations. Your morning star law must have gradually awakened. Lear echoed. He looked at Milia with a serious expression. Milia, do you feel uncomfortable or something? Or are there any changes in your body? No, I feel fine, and these lights are very comfortable. Milia looked at Lear strangely, not understanding why Lear asked this. What's wrong? It's okay, I'm just worried that gaining power will cause harm to your body. Lear was silent for a few seconds and finally shook his head. So, can I help you in this future? Milia said excitedly, according to the information I got, this scepter has two skills, one is the morning star sealing technique, and the other is the illusory star. Well, of course you can. Both of these skills are powerful, but don't expose them easily. Lear nodded. Although he thought it was strange that Milia suddenly gained the ability to control the morning star scepter, he didn't want to spoil Milia's interest. Then, when you want to save our mother, can you take me with you? Milia looked at Lear with hope. I want to help you, too. Lear looked at Milia and felt a headache. Although Milia could use the morning star scepter, she was still a weak girl, and Milia's current situation was a bit complicated. Milia was missing, and it would be strange for her to appear rashly. Milia, you are missing now, and you can use the morning star scepter. If you go out, you will be regarded as a heretic by the Golden Church. Lear tried to make Milia give up the dangerous idea of going out. I can disguise myself. I just hope no one sees me. Milia pouted and retorted. Lear was silent for a long time before he said helplessly, Well, I will let you know when we rescue the queen, but you must listen to me completely. I will be good. Milia nodded and answered seriously. Late at night, the Golden Cathedral is brightly lit. Sylvia and other Golden cultists gathered around the table, discussing what happened to the Blood Apostles during the day. This incident has a great impact on the church. The news that the Queen sealed the corrupt spirit to save the royal city has spread. If we continue to judge the Queen, I am afraid it will cause unrest among the residents of the royal city of Brothile. Someone said worriedly. And Her Highness the Saint. We didn't expect that. We have been fooled by the Blood Apostles. The ones who kidnapped the saint were not corrupt believers at all. Some people were also angry as Sylvia was in deep thought. She had been thinking about it for the whole afternoon but still hadn't made a decision. Wu-Er and Mori on the side looked at each other, coughed lightly and said, I think Her Royal Highness the Saint is more important than the Queen. The Queen is just an ordinary heretic, but everyone should know what Her Royal Highness the Saint means to the Holy See. If Her Highness the Saint makes a mistake and angers the goddess of golden law, it will be our fault. Wu-Er spoke with great righteousness, and Mori beside him nodded in agreement. They didn't care about the Queen at all, as long as the saint could come back. After all, the saint's disappearance was Mori's fault, and Wu-Er was still helping to conceal it, which was an even greater crime. As long as the saint comes back, their punishment will be lighter. Sylvia was also moved when she heard what Wu-Er said. Given the importance of the saint to the Holy See, she could indeed be exchanged for the Queen, and Afanina was her daughter. It is reasonable for her to accept the deal made by the Blood Apostle. However, this feeling of being coerced and played with made Sylvia very angry. When had she ever suffered such humiliation? End of this chapter. Chapter 106 The Golden Church's Plan, 3K. Seeing Sylvia remain silent, Wu-Er thought that the other party was still hesitating, so he rolled his eyes and said, I know that agreeing to the deal with the Blood Apostle is a shame for the church, but as long as Her Highness the Saint can come back alive, it will be worth it. Besides, we don't have to really hand over the Queen. Wu-Er's voice suddenly became deep. Everyone's eyes turned to Ul, including Sylvia's. The Blood Apostle is threatening us with the saint. Why can't we take advantage of their tactic? Wu-Er said seriously. Why don't we pretend to hand over the Queen, but just to lure the Blood Apostle to appear, ambush the good people, and rescue the saint during the transaction? Not only can we save the saint, we don't have to let the Queen go, and we even have a chance to capture the Blood Apostle. As soon as these words were spoken, the hall fell silent. The Golden cultists around them thought about it and thought, this seems to be a good decision. Wu-Er looked at the people who were lost in thought and was also excited about his own idea. This was really a solution that would kill two birds with one stone. Although it was a bit immoral, how could he talk about morality with heretics? There is no need at all, But before he could be happy for too long, Sylvia frowned and said, "The method you mentioned is indeed feasible, but are you sure we can ambush the Blood Apostle? Everyone has seen how powerful the Blood Apostle is. He is mysterious and elusive. You have also witnessed this before when you were fighting against the corrupted spirit. How do you plan to rescue Ophelia from him? Or do you think you have the confidence to defeat the Blood Apostle?" Sylvia pointed out the loopholes in UR's plan. What is the strength of the Blood Apostle? That kind of elusive speed and strange abilities are simply hard to guard against. Sylvia has no confidence in being able to fight the Blood Apostle, let alone UR, the tank guard knight. She is just like Ophelia. As the previous saint, she possesses the abilities of both praying and judging. UR was speechless by what Sylvia said. He had not thought about this problem at all. Thinking of the powerful combat capability of the Blood Apostle, his expression became a little ugly. "I can unite with other powerful people in the royal city," UR said unwillingly. "For example, the War Knight of the Stuart family, and Rosser. I heard that the Dean of the Arcane Academy is also an extraordinary wizard." Sylvia listened to War's words and still shook her head. "Albert is a believer in war and was once a close friend of the Queen. If the Blood Apostle rescued the Queen, he would be overjoyed. How could he help us? Likewise, Rosser. The Queen is his wife. Asking him to give up his wife is already the biggest concession. Do you still want him to personally send the Queen to face trial? And the princess may also be in the hands of the Blood Apostle. And what about the Dean of the Arcane Academy? I also know about the extraordinary wizard you mentioned. He is a believer in arcane law and may not necessarily help the Golden Church. Moreover, he seems to be very close to the Stuart family." Sylvia broke UR's fantasy without any hesitation. The atmosphere became somewhat dull. War took a deep breath. He thought his proposal was very good, but he did not expect it to be rejected so quickly. However, he still did not give up. "Even if Albert and Rosser won't help us, that extraordinary wizard may not. As long as we can offer enough benefits, I believe we can get him to lend a hand." "Ha ha." Sylvia smiled. "Okay, since you said so, then you can go and invite that wizard. If you can invite that wizard, then we will act according to your plan. Of course, the Golden Church will not reimburse the reward for inviting the wizard. If we successfully rescue Ophelia, your and Maury's mistakes can be written off." Sylvia added. Sylvia was no fool. How could she not see what UR was planning? UR was eager to rescue the saint so that he and Maury could reduce the punishment. If he could capture the Blood Apostle at the same time, it would be a great achievement. Not only would the punishment be removed, he could even be rewarded. But the plan is good, but implementation is not easy. End of the meeting. Only UR and Maury were left. "Father, are we going to invite the Dean of the Arcane Academy?" Maury asked. "Go." UR gritted his teeth. If the plan can really succeed, then he will be a hero. His reputation and status within the Vatican will be improved. You only have to pay some money to invite an extraordinary wizard, and the benefits will be far greater than the cost. In the dark dungeon, Dehay was dressed in rags and was tortured beyond recognition. Although he himself didn't feel anything after being caught, he turned his touch to the lowest level. Maury's torture was like tickling, but it looked a little creepy. He turned his head boredly and looked to the other side, where the Queen was imprisoned. Unlike him, the Queen was still glamorous and beautiful. Although she no longer wore luxurious clothes, she was at least clean and tidy, which was somewhat out of place in this dungeon. "Are you also a believer in heretical laws?" The Queen not far away suddenly said to Dahe. Dahe was stunned for a moment. Through the dim light, she could see the appearance of the Queen. She had silver hair and blue eyes. She was extremely beautiful. She was no less beautiful than the white-haired little girl she had seen in the Lord's cemetery before, and she had added a touch of maturity. Dahe was a little embarrassed, then nodded. "Yes, Your Majesty." "What law do you believe in?" the Queen asked again. "The law of blood." Dahe answered obediently. "Blood?" The Queen was obviously stunned for a moment. She looked at the young man in front of her. The law of blood was the heretical law that Lear believed in. The young man in front of him believes in blood, so it must be related to Lear. "Do you know Lee?" The Blood Apostle," the Queen asked again. Of course, it was the blood apostle who let me in. Your Majesty, don't worry, Lord Meng is already preparing to rescue you. Da He nodded. Is that so? The queen murmured to herself. Lear had said he would save her when he visited her before, but she didn't expect it to happen so quickly, but she soon became confused. She could feel that the young man in front of her was just an ordinary person. What could Lear let him in for? To send him to his death? You should be just an ordinary person. What can the blood apostle let you do by sneaking in? The queen asked her doubts. Da He smiled. The NPC in front of him didn't seem as mysterious as the blood apostle and Lear, and he didn't know the situation of these players yet. He immediately laughed and said, Your Majesty, I am not a human from this world. I am an alien from another world. My companions and I will never die in this world. Even if we are killed, we will be resurrected. In addition, we have the ability to communicate over long distances. That's why Lord Munger allowed me to sneak in and get information about you. The queen widened her eyes when she heard what Da He said. A stranger from another world? Resurrection from the dead? Long-distance communication. She couldn't believe what the other person said, but Da He's tone didn't sound like nonsense. Seeing the queen's shocked expression, Da He felt inexplicably good. Both Lear and the blood apostles behaved as usual after knowing that they could be resurrected. This is a resurrection. Just when he was trying to show off in front of the beautiful queen, he suddenly heard a conversation not far away. Do you think High Priest Uar can ask Dean Irwin to help him deal with the blood apostles? I think it's a bit difficult. You haven't been to the Lord's cemetery and haven't seen the blood apostle. I feel that even with Mr. Irwin's participation, it will be difficult to defeat the blood apostle. Two golden cultists came over, and Da He immediately shut his mouth and frowned when he heard their conversation. If you ask me, wouldn't it be better to just use Her Majesty the Queen to exchange for the saint? Why did you have to invite Dean Irwin to ambush the blood apostles in order to snatch the saint back? If it succeeds, that's fine, but if it fails, as the golden cultist continued to speak, Da He's eyes widened and the queen also raised her head. In the Arcane Academy, Li Huanhuan, who was studying and reading with Yao Yao in the library, suddenly received a message and the message bar vibrated. She opened it immediately and saw the message from Da He. The Golden Church intends to invite the Dean of the Arcane Academy to ambush Munger and take back the saint. As soon as she saw the content of the message, Li Huanhuan stood up from her chair abruptly. Yao Yao, who was reading a historical biography with great interest, was startled. What happened? Da He has sent news. Li Huanhuan directly showed the news to Yao Yao. The Golden Church is too shameless. How can they do this? After seeing the content, Yao Yao felt disgusted with the Golden Church again. Stop talking about this, let's quickly tell Mr. Munger the news. Li Huanhuan said immediately. As she spoke, she left the library with Yao Yao. When we arrived at the place where we had agreed to meet with the blood apostle, it was a dilapidated house. When they walked in, they saw the blood apostle, sitting quietly on a chair with a somewhat empty look in his eyes. The two looked at the blood apostle in front of them with some surprise. For a long while, the blood apostle did not move. Li Huanhuan walked up, hesitated for a moment, and touched the horns on the blood apostle's head with some excitement. Suddenly, a red light flashed in the blood apostle's eyes, and his gaze became lively. The blood apostle looked at the two people in front of him and was silent for a long time before asking, What do you want? Li Huanhuan was startled by the sudden movement of the blood apostle, and her cheeks were slightly red. It's like this, Mr. Munger. Da He has sent a message about the Golden Church. Oh? What's the news? Asked the blood apostle in a deep voice. The Golden Church intends to pretend to accept your deal, and then invite the Dean of the Arcane Academy to ambush together and take back the saint. Li Huanhuan said in a low voice. End of this chapter. Chapter 107. Irwin, I will also help you find the Princess Lear, who was far away in Steward Mansion, also received the information through the incarnation of blood. He could guess that the Golden Church might do something tricky, but he didn't expect that they were planning to invite Irwin to join them in dealing with him. Liar's expression was a little heavy. Before, when he was in the Lord's cemetery, it was because of the protection of the Lord of Blood that he briefly gained the power of the extraordinary class, but now he is just a high-level professional. If it was just Sylvia and Uar, he still had the confidence that he could use the blood incarnation to lure Sylvia away, and then use his real body to save the queen, but now with the addition of Irwin, things are different. A superordinary mage possesses a myriad of abilities. Apart from being weak in close combat and having a fragile body, he has almost no other shortcomings. The methods are much more comprehensive than those of other professionals. If he wants to save the Queen, he must stop Erwin from helping the Golden Church. Lear looked up at the night outside the window. The next day, Lear left the mansion early in the morning. It was already late at night when he received the news yesterday. He didn't want to disturb Erwin, so he had to visit him before Erwin agreed to the Golden Church. When we arrived at the Arcane Academy, there was a carriage parked at the door with the emblem of a golden tree carved on it. Lear's expression looked a little unhappy. He had gone out very early, but it seemed that he was still overtaken by the Golden Church. He walked into the Arcane Academy, causing a commotion, and many students became excited when they saw Lear. The Lear of today is no longer the Lear of the past. His reputation as a dual law professional has long been known. Not long after he entered the academy, he saw Divine Triveni also saw Lear, and was stunned for a moment, then showed a happy expression, and ran to Lear. Lear, long time no see. How come you have time to come to the academy today? Are you here to learn new spells? Lear stopped and felt a little anxious, but he still smiled and said, I have something I want to find Uncle Erwin for. Looking for father? Triveni was stunned. Yes, I wonder where Uncle Erwin is now. Lear asked if father was just meeting with someone from the Golden Church. It seemed to be the high priest you are. Triveni replied, can you take me to see it? Lear smiled. Triveni blushed a little at Lear's smile, then nodded, okay, come with me. Director's office. Erwin frowned as he listened to the words of the Golden High Priest in front of him. You want me to help you capture the Blood Apostle? Yes, Mr. Elvin, I heard that you are the only extraordinary wizard in the royal city. With your help, I think we can definitely capture the Blood Apostle. Yuar nodded with a smile, but I heard that the Blood Apostle intends to exchange the saint for the Queen. Don't you plan to agree? Alvin asked again. That was the Blood Apostle's request. How could we agree to a heretic's request? War denied it immediately. The Blood Apostle kidnapped the saint. This is a provocation to the Golden Church. We plan to pretend to agree to the Blood Apostle's request and then unite to capture the Blood Apostle, so we need your help. Yuar told him his plan, and Erwin showed a thoughtful expression. Although he did not participate in the operation to eliminate the corrupt believers, he had heard of the power of the Blood Apostles. It was reasonable for the Golden Church to invite him to capture the Blood Apostle together. But he actually admired the Blood Apostle, a heretic. The Blood Apostle was not as evil as other heretics. Instead, he did a lot of good things. And as for the Queen, Erwin also felt a little sorry for him. Seeing Erwin's silence, Yuar felt a little anxious. The longer he remained silent, the more likely the other party would reject him. He gritted his teeth and took out a necklace from the storage items. Sir Erwin, if you are willing to help us, this relic of law will be your reward. This necklace is called the Chain of Holy Glory. It has the ability to accelerate magic cultivation. It can also protect the wearer from a fatal attack. It can be triggered once every 3 days. Yuar placed the necklace on the table. Any relic of the law is precious. Even if its effect is not strong, it still represents a relic of the gods. The necklace in front of him was obviously very powerful. It could speed up magic cultivation and save lives at the same time. For a magician, it was even more precious. Mages are inherently fragile, and even though they have spell shields, it is impossible for them to maintain the shields forever, so mages are very afraid of being assassinated by powerful assassins. With this relic of law that can block a fatal blow, there is a chance to counterattack. Erwin was moved. Sir Erwin, you should know how precious this necklace is. This is the greatest sincerity I can show. Yuar said seriously. Listening to Yuar's words, Erwin nodded and said, since His Excellency the High Priest has invited me so kindly, I will naturally help the Golden Church. I will accept this necklace. You can contact me when you are ready to take action. Excuse me, is Uncle Erwin here? Just as Erwin was about to accept the necklace, a voice came from outside the dean's office. Erwin and Yuar in the room were both stunned for a moment. Erwin recognized that it was Lear's voice. He put away the necklace, glanced at Yuar, and said, come in. The door opened and Lear and Devine walked in. As soon as he entered the door, Lear felt that something was wrong in the atmosphere, and his heart sank. Yuar also saw Lear. He did not have a good impression of Lear and stood up immediately. Mr. Erwin, since we have already agreed on our business, I will not disturb you. He glanced at Lear, then said goodbye to Erwin and left. Only Lear and 2 others were left in the dean's office. Uncle Erwin, what does the high priest of UR want to see you about? Lear asked. Hearing this, Erwin immediately said, you asked the right question. I also wanted to talk to you. You should have heard about the Blood Apostle. Lear nodded when he heard this. The Blood Apostle kidnapped the saint and planned to exchange her for the queen. I think that since the saint was kidnapped by the Blood Apostle, the princess is likely in his hands as well. Erwin deduced. Just now, the Golden Church invited me to help capture the Blood Apostle, and I agreed. I think as long as we catch the Blood Apostle, we should be able to find the princess's whereabouts. You helped me rescue Divine, and I will help you find the princess. Erwin said sincerely, while Lear opened his mouth slightly, not knowing what to say. And now that you've said that, how can he still ask Erwin not to help the Golden Church? The princess might be in the hands of the Blood Apostle. Don't you want to find the princess? Lear had never felt so miserable. End of this chapter. Chapter 108. The Queen is missing. 3K. When he returned from the Arcane Academy, Lear felt helpless. He ultimately failed to stop Erwin from interfering in the Queen's affairs. Erwin wanted to help him find the princess, which was perfectly fine, and Lear didn't even know how to argue with that. Although he failed to stop the cooperation between Erwin and the Golden Church, Lear was not too distressed. The Golden Church planned to pretend to agree to the deal and then attack him during the transaction, but Lear had no intention of keeping the appointment at all. He just wanted to divert the Golden Church's attention. Before the agreed transaction, once he figured out the internal layout of the Golden Cathedral, he would take action directly. In the afternoon, Lear came to the Golden Cathedral. At this time, there were still many reporters in front of the Golden Cathedral. War looked at the reporters with a serious face and read out the notice in his hand. The Golden Church is willing to agree to the Blood Apostle's request and exchange the Queen for the Saint Girl at the Lord's Cemetery the day after tomorrow. UR spoke seriously on the surface, but he was very happy in his heart. Sylvia had already accepted his plan. If he succeeded in rescuing the saint and capturing the Blood Apostle, it would be a great achievement for him. The reporters around looked at each other in bewilderment. The Golden Church actually compromised? Please publish this news in the newspaper and make sure the Blood Apostles can see it. UR said again, reminding the reporters around him. All the reporters nodded. Even if War didn't say it, they would not let go of such news. Now the most concerned issue in the entire royal city was the matter of the Queen and the Blood Apostle. This will affect their performance. Lear watched from a distance, and after receiving satisfactory news, the reporters dispersed and UR returned to the Golden Cathedral. After waiting for half an hour, Lear also walked towards the Golden Cathedral. He walked straight in. The golden cultist guarding the door saw Lear coming. Mr. Lear? The believer recognized Lear's identity and said respectfully, Is High Priest Sylvia here? Lear asked. You're looking for the High Priest? The church member was stunned for a moment, then said with some embarrassment, A High Priest is not in the church right now. If you're looking for the High Priest, you may have to wait a while. Not here? Yes. Lear glanced at the interior of the church without leaving a trace, and then said, Can I go into the church to take a look and wait for a while? The golden cultists hesitated when they heard this. Seeing the golden cultists' hesitation, Lear took out the golden tree badge that Gas had given him and said, This should allow me to enter. Looking at the emblem in Lear's hand, the Golden Church's eyes widened, and then his attitude changed. Of course, Mr. Lear, with the emblem you can stay freely in the Golden Church anywhere. Lear nodded when he heard this. In his previous life, someone had obtained the golden tree emblem. Simply put, this emblem meant that one could stay freely in the Golden Church, and the Golden Church would meet one's living and food needs within normal limits. It's almost like a permanent golden meal ticket to the Vatican. With this, Lear can cross Sylvia and enter the Golden Cathedral directly. After all, the Golden Cathedral is generally not open to outsiders. At most, only the prayer room outside allows ordinary believers to pray. The interior of the church is a real Golden Cathedral. Generally, only internal personnel of the Golden Church and legal professionals are allowed to enter. Or, when princes and nobles who believe in the golden law hold weddings, they can apply to borrow the cathedral. Lear smiled, put away the golden tree emblem, walked past the believers and entered the cathedral. When Lear arrived at the hall, he didn't see anyone. He felt a little strange because the afternoon should be the prayer time. However, the fact that there was no one around made it easier for him to plan his route, and as he walked alone, Lear came to the entrance to the underground prison. There was a guard guarding the entrance. Lear stood far away and waited for the guard to turn his back. He quickly walked up to him, knocked the guard unconscious with a knife, and then walked in. Lear soon arrived at the queen's place where the guard had brought him before, but the prison was empty. The queen has gone across the prison. The bound Dahe saw Lear and was stunned for a moment. Mr. Lear. Lear reacted from his confusion over the queen's disappearance and saw Dahe, who was imprisoned opposite. Where is the queen? Lear asked. The queen was taken away by people from the Vatican. Dahe answered subconsciously. Where did you go? I didn't hear that. Dahe smiled awkwardly. Lear frowned. Things were again beyond his control. It was bad enough that the Golden Church invited Erwin, but now even the queen has disappeared. Did the Golden Church move the queen? Was it because they were afraid that he would break out of prison early? Where would they move her? Lear took a deep breath and regretted why he didn't give the queen a blood mark when he met her before. Lear walked around the prison in despair, but there was indeed no sign of the queen. After more than 10 minutes, he returned to where the queen was supposed to be with a somewhat grim expression on his face. He was silent for a few seconds, and finally turned and left. Dahe looked at this scene with some surprise, and watched Lear's back disappear into the prison. The queen was missing, which was unexpected. When Lear returned to the mansion, he also received news from the incarnation of blood. Dahe passed the information to Li Huanhuan and then to him. What's wrong? Seeing that Lear looked absent-minded, Milia asked with concern. It's okay, I'm just thinking about how to rescue the queen. Lear smiled nonchalantly. I heard that the Golden Church has agreed to exchange the Queen Mother for the saint. Are you really going to let the saint go? Milia asked. She already knew what Lear had done, but if she let the saint go, her and Lear's affairs would be exposed. Even if she brought her mother back, they would still be in danger. The Golden Church didn't really agree. They just pretended to agree to my request and then wanted to lure me out and arrest me. Lear shook his head. Milia's eyes widened, and after a while she said angrily, how could the Golden Church do this? Don't worry, I will rescue Her Majesty the Queen. I will not return the saint to them, and our secret will not be exposed. Lear stroked Milia's hair gently. His tone was relaxed, but his heart was a little heavy. By the way, are you familiar with the Morning Star Scepter? Lear suddenly asked. I have already mastered it. Milia laughed when she heard Lear mention the Morning Star Scepter. She directly picked up the scepter on the bedside, which was emitting a faint blue light. I have mastered both features of the scepter. I can see anything that happens within a range of 10 kilometers through the gemstone mirror. Milia said proudly, and the scene outside appeared in the sapphire mirror of the Morning Star Scepter. It was already dark outside and the environment was somewhat murky, but the image in the mirror of the Morning Star Scepter was very clear, and even in places without light it could be seen clearly. Looking at the image in the mirror, Lear suddenly had an idea and said to Milia, can you adjust the image to the location of the Golden Cathedral? Of course. Milia nodded, slid the scepter a few times, and the Golden Cathedral appeared in the mirror. And Milia continued to click, and the image in the mirror continued to expand, and finally she passed through the stained glass on the dome of the cathedral and entered the interior of the church. In the hall, Sylvia was talking with a group of golden cultists. Lear was shocked by the function of the Morning Star Scepter. The mirror of the scepter also has the function of perspective? As long as the starlight can shine in, you can see it. Milia nodded. Lear didn't know what to say. This function was really beyond belief. If you get closer, you can hear their conversation. Milia added. Her hand slid across the mirror, and soon Sylvia's voice was heard from the mirror. Just in case, I have moved the queen. When we trade with the Blood Apostle, Gas will lead the other golden cultists to guard her. You and I will take the dummy to the Lord's cemetery to lure out the Blood Apostle. You must have Archmage Elvin hide in the dark and not alert the enemy. In the cathedral, Sylvia was making preparations for the transaction, completely unaware that two pairs of eyes were watching them. Lear stared at Sylvia, hoping that he could tell him some information about where the queen was transferred to, but he was disappointed. Sylvia said nothing. How is it? Is this information helpful to you? Milia looked at Lear carefully. She really hoped that she could help Lear. Lear came back to his senses and smiled. Of course, it helps a lot. He patted Milia's little head, but this was not to comfort her. Although Sylvia did not directly say where the queen was transferred to, she said that Bishop Gas would be there to guard her, which means that Bishop Gas knew the whereabouts of the queen. Lear's eyes became gloomy. If that was the case, he could find out the whereabouts of the Queen through Garth. Sylvia and UR, the two strongest fighters of the Golden Church, planned to capture him together with Erwin, and only sent Gas to guard the Queen. This was a good plan. If the Blood Apostle comes to fulfill the deal, they can do their best to capture the Blood Apostle. If the Blood Apostle's deal was a scam, it was a diversion to lure the enemy away from their mountain hideout, and they were planning to go to the Golden Cathedral to snatch someone away. But the Queen had already been transferred. It can be said that Sylvia was very thoughtful and anticipated that the Blood Apostle might be deceiving them. Lier smiled. Sylvia was very powerful, but he had a trick: learn more about remote monitoring and perspective. He pondered for a while and made a plan in his mind. Since Sylvia intended to deceive him, he would play along. The Blood Apostle would go to the appointment, and his real body would rescue the Queen. Sylvia thought he had attracted the Blood Apostle, but it was just an incarnation of Lear. End of this chapter. Chapter 109, Queen for Saint. The transaction begins. The news that the Golden Church was planning to make a deal with the Blood Apostles quickly spread throughout the royal city. The reporters in the royal city were all working very hard, and for a while a large number of residents in the royal city were looking forward to it. After appearing many times, the Blood Apostle already has many believers in the royal city. Although they do not have an affinity for the blood law, they also regard the Blood Apostle as an angel of God. Lear came to the Golden Cathedral again. This time he was looking for Bishop Gas. With the golden tree emblem, he easily entered the Golden Cathedral and happened to meet Bishop Gas in the church. Bishop Gas. Lear walked up and greeted him. Master Lear. Bishop Gas was stunned. I heard that the Golden Church is planning to make a deal with the Blood Apostles. Is this true? Lear asked, pretending to be melancholy. It's true, Master Lear. What can I do for you? Bishop Gas nodded. The melancholy expression on Lear's face became much calmer because of Bishop Gas's answer. He said with some expectation, Bishop Gas, the Milia you mentioned earlier might have also been kidnapped by the Blood Apostles. Could you please ask High Priest Sylvia to tell us when we trade with the Blood Apostles that our Stewart family is also willing to trade with the Blood Apostles? As long as the Blood Apostle is willing to release Milia, the Stewart family is willing to pay any price. Lear's tone was full of emotion, and Bishop Gas was slightly moved. He pondered for a moment, nodded and said, Don't worry, Master Lear, I will definitely explain it to High Priest Sylvia, and I will definitely help you find out the whereabouts of Her Royal Highness the Princess. Then I'll leave it to you. Lear said gratefully, and couldn't help but give Bishop Gas a hug. Bishop Gas did not refuse, thinking that Lear's feelings for the princess were sincere. He did not notice that when Lear hugged him, a barely visible red light entered his body. The hug lasted only a few seconds, and then Lear let go of Bishop Gas. After chatting with him for a few more words, Lear left. He had already put a blood mark on Bishop Gas's body, so as long as Bishop Gas went to find the Queen, he could follow him and find the Queen's location. Now we just have to wait for the day when trading starts. Lear walked out of the Golden Cathedral with a satisfied smile. When Lear returned to Stewart House, he met Albert. Albert seemed to have been here for a while. Seeing Lear appear, he stood up and asked, Did you know that the Blood Apostle planned to exchange the Saint for the Queen? I know. What are your plans? Albert asked again. Lear knew that Albert was asking about Milia and the Queen. If the Blood Apostle replaced the Queen, how would he explain it to Milia? Albert didn't know that he was the Blood Apostle, and Lear didn't want to reveal his identity for the time being. He pondered for a moment and said, Father, can you trust me? What? Albert was puzzled. Don't do anything and don't interfere in the affairs of the Golden Church. Leave everything to me and I will bring the Queen back. Lear said seriously. Albert looked at Lear with a deep gaze. At this moment, he thought a lot about the relationship between the Blood Apostle and Lear. Before Lear woke up, he was communicating with the blood law. He knew about it. Maybe Lear and the Blood Apostle knew each other. After a long silence, he said, I can trust you, but if you fail to bring the Queen back, I will do it myself. Lear smiled and said, I won't bother you to do it. Soon the day of the transaction came. In a dilapidated house somewhere in the royal city, the Blood Apostle stood in front of Li Huanhuan and tied Li Huanhuan up with life-binding shackles. I don't know if it's because he was used to tying up Ophelia at home, but when Lear tied up Li Huanhuan, he also tied her up in an extremely shameful way. It shows Li Huanhuan's graceful figure to the fullest. Yao Yao widened her eyes at the side. Can you just watch this? Li Huanhuan's live broadcast room also became lively. Damn it. Why did this NPC save the Valkyrie in the first place? It seems he has been plotting something bad against her. Is this game so exciting? Can this be broadcast? Where is the super administrator? You know what, the Valkyrie has a pretty good figure. Li Huanhuan looked at the blood apostle who had tied her up with a blushing face. The other party's ferocious face did not change at all, and he just tied her up seriously. Mr. Meng. Mr. Minga, what are you going to do? Li Huanhuan asked tremblingly. I'm using you to pretend to be a saint. Lear explained casually. Huh? Li Huanhuan was stunned, and Yao Yao beside her was also stunned. What's wrong? The blood apostle raised his head in surprise. The Golden Church is ambushing me and trying to arrest me. Of course I can't really take the saint with me, so I'm just using you as a disguise. You have a similar body shape to the saint, and you can't tell if you cover your face. Lier said as a matter of course, and took out Ophelia's scepter from the storage ring. This scepter is also placed on you. The aura of the golden law on it will bring you closer to the saint. He tied the scepter directly to Li Huanhuan's body. Li Huanhuan looked at the scepter. Name, Holy Spirit Staff Category, Scepter Grade, Extraordinary Attributes, Spell Power plus 90, Spell Chanting Speed plus 20%. Features, Divine Protection. The Holy Spirit Scepter emits a gentle and powerful holy light, providing continuous healing effects to the holder. At the same time, divine protection can be automatically triggered when the holder's health is below a certain threshold, instantly restoring a large amount of health and protecting the holder from fatal damage. Special skill, Holy Judgment. The Holy Spirit Scepter gathers the energy of holy light and casts holy judgment on the designated target or area, causing a large amount of holy damage. The cooldown time is 1 hour. Requirements, Golden Rule Affinity 30%. This is an extraordinary level weapon, with extremely powerful attributes, characteristics, and special skills. Li Huanhuan hasn't changed her job yet, so where has she seen such advanced equipment? But even such a powerful equipment was tied to her body by Lier. Okay, you just need to be obedient. You can be resurrected and there will be no danger. After this task is completed, I will reward you with the mission and let you switch to the profession of blood law. Lier said as if he was coaxing a child. Li Huanhuan's face turned red. The blood apostle's words made her feel like a little girl, but who is she? The Valkyrie of the live streaming world. The comments in the live broadcast room started scrolling like crazy, full of mocking words. Li Huanhuan could already foresee that her appearance today would soon be uploaded to video websites for people to see, and everyone would see her shameful side. Lier didn't know what Li Huanhuan was thinking. He picked Li Huanhuan up by the waist and carried her on his shoulders, then walked out of the door in a swagger. End of this chapter. Chapter 110. The Queen's True Whereabouts. 3K. The Lord's Cemetery has not been fully recovered since the last battle with the corrupt spirits. Many tombstones have fallen to the ground and the fences of the cemetery are in tatters. At this time, there were many people surrounding the Lord's cemetery, including fearless reporters, nobles and citizens. Didn't I say that nobles and citizens are prohibited from watching? Sylvia frowned and looked at the increasing number of people around him, his face looking a little unsightly. There will be a tough battle to fight next. With so many people surrounded, what if the blood apostle goes crazy and starts killing people? Upon hearing this, Yuar stepped forward. It was his decision to let these people in. As Sylvia, we are about to capture a powerful heretic. How can there be no one to witness this great battle? Yuar said in a high-pitched voice, and with so many people, it will be convenient for Lord Irwin to hide inside and ambush the blood apostle. Sylvia listened to Yuar's explanation and felt that he was too stupid. She said coldly, "You'd better pray that nothing goes wrong." "Don't worry, Sylvia, we have 3 extraordinary professionals. No matter how powerful the blood apostle is, he is only one person, and our professional combination is strong enough." Yuar answered confidently. There are royal knights, mages, and a saint who can be both a praying man and a judge warrior, mage and priest, a classic combination. Just as Sylvia and Yuar were talking, there was a commotion in the crowd not far away. The crowd that had originally surrounded the place slowly dispersed, leaving a path. A hideous figure appeared at the end of the road. It was the blood apostle. Many people in the surrounding area knelt down immediately, and reporters were taking pictures desperately. Lier carried the masked Li Huanhuan and walked straight to the door of the Lord's tomb, confronting Sylvia. Continued, the two sides looked at each other without speaking. A tense atmosphere was spreading. Lear saw Wuer's hostile gaze, which he did not hide. "Your Golden Church clearly published an announcement in the newspaper that you want to make a deal with me, but I don't see any sincerity in the eyes of this high priest," the blood apostle said slowly as Sylvia glanced at Yuar beside him. Yuar's hostility was too obvious. At least he had to wait until the blood apostles entered the Lord's cemetery. They had already set up the magic circle. What a waste, who can't do anything good but always makes things worse. Sylvia cursed in her heart but smiled on the surface. She said to the blood apostle, "How could it be? We have brought the queen." Sylvia motioned to the golden cultist nearby to push up a wheelchair. A woman wearing a veil was pushed up, and her beautiful long silver hair could be seen. "We brought the queen, and you should have brought the saint as well, right?" Sylvia looked at the girl carried on Lear's shoulders. The blood apostle chuckled, "Of course." He reached out and slapped Li Huanhuan on the butt, and a crisp sound spread throughout the cemetery. "Woo!" Li Huanhuan exclaimed, her face flushed beneath her veil. No one told her there would be such a plot when she arrived. While the blood apostles and the Golden Church were making a deal, Lear was also preparing to leave Stuart Mansion. "Milia, why don't you stay at home? I will rescue the queen." Lear suggested to Milia helplessly. It was still too dangerous to let Milia go out with him. Now that Ur and Sylvia were in the Lord's cemetery, he was confident that he could rescue the queen alone. Besides, the queen's position is not suitable for Milia to go there now. Hearing Lier's words, Milia pouted immediately. "You said you would take me with you." Continued, Lier sighed. "Well, put on the mask." He took out a light blue mask from the storage ring and handed it to Milia. Emilia took the mask, put it on obediently, and then put on a black robe. Lier also put on a bloody prisoner mask, and the two of them walked towards the queen, one in front and one behind. According to the blood mark hanging on Bishop Gass's body, the queen's place is in the palace. The queen was imprisoned in the palace, and this was also the reason why Lear did not want to take Miria with him, imprisoning the queen in the palace must have been agreed by King Rosser. Rosser agreed to imprison the queen in the palace, agreed to the request of the Golden Church, and gave up the plan to let the blood apostles rescue the queen. The king gave up the queen and Milia's mother. What would Milia think if she knew? In the palace prison, Rosser stood outside the prison door, and inside was his wife. The two looked at each other, and no one spoke. "I'm sorry, Philia, you're willing to sacrifice yourself for me, but I can't betray the golden rule," Rosser said with a bitter expression. Philia remained silent. Although she had no memory of her actions in the Lord's cemetery, she had heard others describe it roughly. It seems touching that she turned herself in for Rose, but if it was really her, she thinks she would not do that. It would be better to say that I will not be so foolish as to deliver myself to the Golden Church. She should leave quietly and try to cut off ties with Rose. They have been husband and wife for so many years, and they have also considered what would happen if they were discovered by the Golden Church. It's probably just parting ways, but the current situation made it very difficult for both her and Rose. Continued, when Philia thought of the scene where he surrendered after being controlled by something, he couldn't help but feel a little resentful. "Philia, please leave," Rosser suddenly said in a deep voice. Philia raised her head and asked in surprise, "Aren't you afraid that if you let me go, you will be punished by the Golden Church? I am a supernatural professional. The most the Holy See can do is punish me. Besides, I am the king of Brafel. They also have to consider the impact on the kingdom. They will not do anything to me." Rosser smiled and said it easily, but Philia knew that this matter was not that simple. The Golden Church would definitely put pressure on Rosser to hand over some of his power. The reason why the kingdom of Brafel changed from a believer in the law of war to a believer in the law of gold was because the Golden Church caught hold of it. By the time the War Church reacted, the king had already become a believer in gold. The most powerful legal sect used to be war, with gold and arcane catching up later. Unfortunately, the Church of War is now in decline, and only controls the Knox Empire and Stuart. Just as the two were talking, the guard outside suddenly ran in a panic. "Your Majesty, the blood apostle has broken in." "What?" Rosser was stunned. "A blood apostle? Shouldn't he be in the Lord's cemetery?" The queen in the prison's eyes lit up when she heard this. At this time, outside the palace hall, a group of royal knights looked vigilantly at the two figures in front of them, one of whom was the blood apostle. Lear stood in front of the hall. With the blessing of the Blood King's robes, his blood incarnation could share the effects of the Blood Law's relics. As long as he wanted, two blood apostles would appear, but there is only one knight Rose, and he did not give the blood incarnation of the Lord's cemetery, but kept it in the hands of the original body. Emilia stood behind Lear, holding the Morningstar scepter in her hand, and didn't understand why Lear brought her to the palace. Continued, when the two sides were confronting each other, Bishop Gass, who was assigned to guard the queen, rushed over, accompanied by Mori and other golden cultists. Seeing the blood apostle, both of them were stunned. Why did the blood apostle appear here? Didn't he go to the Lord's cemetery to keep his appointment? Blood apostle, you, no need to waste any more time talking nonsense, just leave the queen to me. Lear said in a deep voice. The incarnation of blood in the Lord's tomb and Li Huan pretending to be the saint would probably be exposed soon. He had to rescue the queen as soon as possible. Bishop Gass and Mori both looked unhappy. How did the blood apostle know that the queen was here? Who leaked the secret? I don't want to say it a second time. Lear's tone was cold, and the next second his figure came to Mori's side. He suddenly had a flash of inspiration, and directly hung Mori up with life-binding shackles. You, what are you doing? Let me go. Mori shouted in panic. He was a mid-level professional, but he was completely unable to break free from Lear's life-binding shackles and could only struggle continuously in the air. On the other side, King Rosser also rushed over and frowned when he saw this scene. Blood apostle. Your Majesty, I know the queen is now imprisoned in the palace. Hand the queen over to me, otherwise, I will not guarantee the life or death of this waste. Lear held the blood-red rose in front of Mori's eyes. When he saw Mori, he thought of a way. Mori was the son of the high priest of UR. He could use Mori to threaten Rosser to hand over the queen. Now if Rosser doesn't want to see the son of high priest UR die, he can only exchange him for the queen. I didn't expect that a waste like Mori could be put to good use one day. Under the bloody face, Lear smiled. Before coming to the palace, he had wondered whether he would fight with Rosser. Now it seems that if everything goes well, he can easily take the queen away. Rosser listened to the words of the blood apostle and remained silent for a long time. Finally, his eyes became sharp. Ophelia is my wife. I will not hand her over to an unknown heretic like you. Final panel. Rosser's tone was firm. The reason why he agreed to let the Golden Church lock Philia up in the palace was because he didn't want the blood apostle to take Philia away. And no matter what, Philia is his wife. Even if he himself bears the punishment of the Golden Church and lets Philia go, he is unwilling to hand Philia over to a man of unknown origin. Wife? When the Golden Church wanted to judge the queen, did you ever think that she was your wife? Lear said coldly, with some disdain for Rosser's words. Milia, who was standing by, was a little dazed as she listened to the conversation between the two. What happened between her father and mother? She had never thought about such a question. End of this chapter.